What's going on, guys? William Barry here, coming at you live. And actually, why is it not letting me follow this guy? What's happening? What, dude? What's going on? Oh, they changed their name. Okay. XX Music XO. Oh, okay. Anyway, guys, what's going on, man? It's been a crazy new year, bro. I think, we didn't start it off the best. I think some Swedes kind of blew up or something. I don't know, man. My girlfriend was telling me My girlfriend was telling me a story about it or something. What's going on, man? Guys, it's a brand new year. Let's have a good year. No more bad news. And to celebrate, okay, someone told me this is one of the greatest Destiny debates of all time. And I was like, well, hold on, dude. I saw a clip or something on Twitter, and that one clip, I saw D'Souza fucking limping already. So I need to see this. This is going to be a good year. This is the year where people unradicalize themselves from the MAGA bullshit. Also, didn't Christopher Hitchens' dog walk this dude 20 years ago? How are we repeating ourselves? Hey, we have Kia here today. We've been a little hectic with the uploads and stuff. Holidays, end of the year, all that stuff. Also, we've been a little sicky in the house, bro. I've been a walking zombie, room to room. Hey. Anyway, we're gonna watch this. We're gonna hate ourselves, and this can't be Destiny's best debate, bro. I watched him go 1v11 and just rip people in half. There's no way. Let's go. Hang burn!
What is not
Wasn't
a lie?
that a lie?
What is not
Wasn't
a lie?
that a lie though? When he held up the sign, didn't he lie to the American public, to you and me and everybody else in here and the entire world when he said these are the tariffs that every other country has on us? That was a lie, right?
Well, it was a negotiating tactic.
So it was a lie to negotiate?
There's no fucking way. All right, dude, this is gonna be a good time. All right, there's no way. There's no way.
Well, it was a negotiating tactic.
So it was a lie to negotiate?
It's a negotiating tactic, and you
Well,
actually
when the costs
know
get
it
too high,
because
I
you
do
just
know it.
admitted it.
I didn't
but
admit it.
Earlier, you were trying to con the audience.
I was giving a simplified answer to somebody who found out
Which is a
found out
wrong
what
answer.
fractional reserve banking was.
Please welcome to the stage Dinesh D'Souza and Destiny.
Dinesh D'Souza. All right, dude.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
So I think we were given pretty broad leeway over, I guess, what to chat about tonight, insofar as kind of like Trump and MAGA and the current state of the U.S. and kind of like where we've come, where we're going in relation to that. Do you have any strong thoughts you want to start us off with, or do you want me to just get right into it?
Okay, so this guy is someone who actually committed. I know D'Souza has debated a handful of people, and I know he was pardoned by Donald Trump. I know that he tried to make that movie about the mules or whatever, and trying to prove that 2020 was stolen or something. And so, but I don't know to what level of degree he's bought into all the shit. Is he Kash Patel crazy? Is this motherfucker gonna write a children's novel to try and convince kids that Donald Trump is the next coming of Christ or something? Or what are we dealing with here? I don't know what level of commitment this guy. I mean, he also obviously got pardoned by Trump, so he's gonna be a dick suck. But to what degree is this man gonna deep throat the MAGA? Well, actually, just the Trump movement at this point, because even MAGA wants stuff about Epstein. They're not total fucking monsters. They're just 99% evil.
Well, let's get into it.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know how much you know about me, but I've been kind of like a YouTube political commentator, influencer guy for maybe about 10 years.
thought it was 15.
I followed with great detail.
Oh, no. He was just a streamer.
A lot of the political, factual, legal, whatever stuff going on with both sides, especially over the past 5 or 6 years. And one of the most kind of troubling things that I've seen develop is we are totally and completely separated in terms of factual reality, in terms of where like the left is living and where MAGA is living. And I mean, my argument is that I would say the conservatives and MAGA, and even people in positions like yours, have contributed really heavily towards that like deliberate muddying of the record, so that people aren't aware of what's actually.
They have, dude. This is like the big reason. There's like 10 things that got Donald Trump elected. One was the vast overreach from the radical left and like the PC culture war stuff. One was like the hyper like one-sided pro-feminism stuff. That stuff was like rough because you alienated some of your core voters. Like, well, you shouldn't make white men feel unwelcomed in your movement if you want things to be done when they're like 70% of the population or whatever. Like, I think it's like, well, the whites are like 70%. Just whatever, dude. The important factor is if these are a big chunk of your voting block, you probably shouldn't treat them like shit. And like a lot of people, especially no matter what side of the political aisle, the further they go down their ideology, they always look towards the center as the enemy. And it's like, even if you want to get your movement done, like you want to get votes in Congress or you want to pass a law, you need to negotiate with those in the center. You don't have to convince the entire other side to help you. You have to convince enough people in the center to see merit in what you're arguing for or fighting for. And that's how things get changed in countries. But one of the big things that really pushed Trump into these limelights was like the outrage machine that Fox has been doing for about 20 years against immigrants, from Rush Limbaugh to Glenn Beck to, fucking, who was the guy before Rush Limbaugh? Bill O'Reilly, where they like you're a fucking, what they used to call you if you would like even question the war in Iraq. And they always target immigrants as like the core problem to America. And like the worst part is there are legitimate arguments on their side. They're just not making them. You could say that America has suffered due to some immigration. Now it has done tremendous good in so many other sectors, but maybe in a handful of sectors it has had negative knock-on effects. And you can be like, hey, we should be able to talk about these things without like, painting all immigrants as a problem, like whatever. All I'm trying to say is there were all these moving systems, and outrage was the core thing that everyone was selling, from Atheism Plus to Gamergate to BLM to all of it was outrage. And no, I'm not saying the left and right are trying to control everyone and there's a small minority government that exists in the sky that's like trying to control like all these, like, no, I'm just saying that people are more motivated by rage than they are about like concern. Things can overlap, like it's okay. But all of this outrage, and then on top of that, you had legitimate issues from the left, like where they got a few things wrong during COVID, like 2 things. But those 2 things are so counterpoint to like all of the vast stuff they got right. But those 2 points are enough to see that like these aren't perfect systems and these people aren't flawless and they're going to make mistakes. And then so we get people like Joe Rogan, this dipshit D'Souza, and RFK that come out and say 99% of wrong shit, but maybe they got like 1 or 2 things right, and no one will ever stack up all of their wrongities or how often they missed the ball. They'll just look at the 2 things maybe they said that was right, was due to censorship about a thing or a particular statement, or like the way that like they just showed a framing that the news was using that showed a slant. Maybe there was a fucking pandemic going on and people were making on-the-fly decisions. People attribute malice where there is none, when they can just attribute incompetence or whatever you want to call it. Bro, these people then run with these fucking lie campaigns where they try to distort reality, and then they mix up, they poison the entire well of information out there, and they don't hold down a fact. And luckily, we have Destiny on a stage that's not going to let one of these fuckers walk away from these things, okay? We need to ask more of our media to tell these people to answer questions honestly. Fuck, sorry, that was a long tangent, but like there's a lot of fucking layers to so much shit, dude.
That like deliberate muddying of the record so that people aren't aware of what's actually happening in this country. And I guess like the first event, I guess, or thing I would kind of like to center on is I'm curious what your understanding is of like the Mar-a-Lago documents case for the classified information that Trump took from the White House and refused to return.
I'm happy to get into it, but before we do, if I can explore the idea you just mentioned a moment ago about alternative realities. I assume what you're saying is that the left lives in a certain type of a bubble, but it's a reality-based bubble.
Okay.
The right lives in a bubble
Of
that is
disinformation
fake
and lies.
and not reality-based. And so, according to you, one half of the country is essentially deluded,
You guys are. You
and
have
the
no
other
brain.
half of the country is sane.
Yep.
See, I think this is a very poor way to try to conceptualize.
A poor way? You mean accurate way, you fucking monster. One side is breaking every societal norm in politics, and the other side try to make trans people have equal rights. These are not the same thing to equate. Okay? You motherfuckers are monsters, and you should be ashamed of your movement. Every Republican today has the onus to not be a fucking pussy bitch and stand up to the corruption bullshit going on in the White House. They take responsibility for putting this sack of shit there, and they demand accountability from the people in power. We can't just be the only ones with a conscience, okay? We can't be the only ones doing that. You fucking disgusting monsters need to do your fucking job and have fucking principles. It's that simple. Yes. So until you can realize that, yeah, dude. One is insane and the other ones are just fucking monsters.
Politics in general. It's the reason it's a poor way is that if you look at any political divide, particularly the really severe political divides.
See, he's going to make an appeal to normalcy and civility, which us on the left agree with, by and large. We want that. Matter of fact, sometimes we eat our side apart over that because we do all these purity checks and all this bullshit about your tone and your language and were you appropriate enough or did you offend somebody? That's rampant. And matter of fact, that's one of your core criticisms of the left. You guys do not do civility. You walk into the room with a beer, slap your fucking wife, and then complain that the world is changing. We are not the same people. You exist in a different paradigm where facts and reason and logic don't exist. You believe in a fucking sky fairy that's going to answer all your goddamn problems. We are not the same people. You exist outside of normalcy. And we need to call that out more often. I don't give a fuck if that offends you. This is truth. I'm sorry. It's hard to deal with. We all had to do it at one point. We all had to wake up one day and say, fuck, 90% of the shit we know is inferred or taught to us by an expert that we'll never meet. And we can't 100% verify that they are correct. But it's the best information we have at the time. Holy fuck.
We go back, for example, to 1860. You could take the view that, which was the view of the South. Lincoln was a moron. Lincoln is a dictator. Lincoln's an idiot. And the Republicans in the North make no sense at all. Or you could take the opposite view, that everyone in the South is a moron.
Everyone in the South was a moron. They wanted to own people. It doesn't matter what point they had. It doesn't matter that they had a legitimate concern that they wouldn't be able to maintain their business. It doesn't matter. Their points are irrelevant when they wanted to own people. You see what I'm saying? He's going to appeal to civility to make an argument. Okay.
They're living in a bubble. They don't understand reality. And therefore, one side is completely right and the other side is completely...
One side is completely right. Yes, people should not own other people. You should not be able to leave our union that we have created. No, yes, these are written in our Constitution. Yes, one side is right and the other side was wrong. Yes, we can do that. We can look through and compare things based off of written law and go, oh, fuck. Yes. One side was right. The other side was wrong. Now, maybe individuals or certain segments of that side had bad argumentation. Maybe some of them had a point to why they were doing what they were doing, but a point is not a justification. It's just an understanding of why someone's motivations can make sense. That doesn't mean you run defense for it. Like if a mom shoots someone that assaults her kid, yeah, I can understand why she shot that person, but it goes against the rules of our society, dude. You don't. No, understanding is not justification.
Completely wrong. To me, the reason this is a very poor way to comprehend reality is that it requires you ultimately to believe that virtually one half of the entire country lives in delusion. Democracy would make
You do! Oh, dude.
no sense if this were truly the case.
Holy fuck.
In reality, the complex thing to do, particularly when there is a divide, and I think this is what we have to work toward, and it'd be really interesting if we did that in this debate.
Isn't it so fucking wild that when there's not an election coming up for Republicans, they love to go on other shows and talk about civility, talking across the aisle. They use all of this PR bullshit, all this fake shit that you guys complain about of the woke movement, right? This is what you guys complained about, right? This is like the whole war, PC culture, right? This is what we were supposed to be against, right? Now he's out here going, wouldn't it be good if we could all get along? And it's like, yeah, but how about what we talk about? The fucking rapist you got in office. How about we deal with that before we worry about civility? Because at the end of this election cycle, you're going to come out and call us every terrible thing under the sun. When our fucking leaders get shot or killed, you're going to celebrate it. And not just like dipshits on TikTok or high schoolers that are edgy, because who the fuck isn't when they're in high school? No, it's going to be the leader of your fucking party. Or like people running for office. You're going to share memes about this shit. You're going to brag about it when people are fucking dying. You're going to sit there and go, yeah, this is what I voted for. Get the fuck out of my country. America's white. What the fuck? They use civility to make you bend to their goddamn knee, and then when you're there, they beat the fuck out of you. Civility bullshit needs to go. If you're voting in terrible shit that offers terrible outcomes for people, we should be able to say, that's fucking disgusting, bro. What? No. Why should we be kind to you? You're not kind to us whenever you have the power. Oh my God. When these guys thought they had everything, they went mask off. They said what the fuck they wanted. Holy fuck.
Is if I can advance a theory about Trump that explains not just the
What's up,
75
Stuart?
million people or so who voted for him, but also the 71 million or so who voted against him. And if I can account for both, and similarly, I would demand of you the same thing. You advance a theory that is a little more sophisticated than simply saying everybody who votes for Trump is a dummy, or they're...
Also, though, Destiny was very careful with his language there. He said the Trumples, he said the Magoids. You know, he's not saying all Republicans, okay? Now, he is saying if you're someone who runs defense for Donald Trump and helped him run the fucking lie of the fake elector scheme in 2020, you should be held accountable for that. And maybe you shouldn't have fucking powers in our office.
listening to other dummies and swallowing their dumb stuff. This does not do justice to our fellow citizens. So I'm just objecting to this framing of reality. We can discuss specific aspects of reality, and I'm happy to...
See, he doesn't want to dive into the point. He just wants to say, you could have just said, I reject your framing, but he can't do that. He's got a morally grandstand, which is the thing they complained about those on the left.
Start where you want, and then I'll take you where I want to go. But I'd like you to comment, first of all, if you agree with me that each of us needs to advance tonight a theory that is good enough, not just to feed the prejudices of the people on our own side, which may be the majority of the audience here, but genuinely accounts for the other side.
Why would we genuinely account for the other side when you don't give a fuck about civility or politics when you're in power? Why you don't give us that? Why the fuck fuck would we ever give it to you? Why do you always get to go low and we always have to go high? And it does not work for us. People do not like Democrats because of that bullshit.
So I would agree, but I would disagree that a genuine accounting for both sides requires you to admit, or it requires you to concede that both sides have a similar factual foundation.
True.
Sometimes when you go to the hospital, sometimes you get diagnosed with a really bad disease. Sometimes the prognosis is it's untreatable. I would be uncomfortable if the doctor told me, well, we're looking at two different diagnoses, but this one is really bad, so we're just going to favor the other one instead. Unfortunately, that's not how the real world works. It might be that at times in our history, there are certain sides of our country that are deluded.
True.
Now, you used the word dummy. I would say they're not stupid. I think that the capacity for even an ordinary person that, you know, a pretentious liberal or some online guy might say, oh, this guy is an idiot. They're not stupid. Like, people have a tremendous capacity for a ton of information.
Yeah, if you ask people to start going down the rabbit hole and stuff and start talking through situations, they can actually like reveal higher level of intelligence than you would normally attribute them to. The problem is the individual is intelligent. It's a group of people that aren't. Okay, look, I agree that Donald Trump should not be replacing the picture of Biden and there should be some professional decorum. That is fucking hilarious, though. That is, I'm sorry. That was a fun. That's why Trump is fun. Like, people like that, bro. Now, no, yeah, he should not. That's something that should have been on a TV show or something. Which is like all America's just reality TV while they can't afford anything. American groceries are starting to outpace Canadian groceries. It's fucking insane.
But I would argue that there has been an entire conservative media apparatus that has been aimed at engaging in the delusion of these people for the purposes of trying to make the unappealing appealing or the indefensible defensible.
He just did that, right? He made a defense essentially for slavery. Now, he didn't make a defense for slavery, to be fair. He made a defense for like understanding their perspective, but he's still whitewashing or like sensitive washing, or, you know, he's taking away the edges of slavery when he's like, well, their perspective wasn't entirely evil. It's like, well, no, but they wanted people to fucking work for free and rape them and do every terrible thing they could do. Like, no. Like, what? No. But he did that. He already did that. He just not like Destiny just already caught it. Hopefully he brings it up.
And that's the thing that I'm kind of attacking. Like, is half the country deluded? I would say right now, to a large extent, yes, but that's not because they're stupid, and it's not by accident, it's by design. And
yes, there's a media apparatus that feeds them misinformation, from Joe Rogan to fucking Robert Kennedy to Kash Patel to fucking all these podcasters and dipshits that don't know damn thing about politics, and they want to go out there and talk about it. Like I barely know anything about politics, but I'm not gonna. If I had a platform of millions of people, bro, there's no way. I'm gonna get like 100 views on this video if I'm lucky. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having that low level, you know, but if I started like, you know, seeing people getting brainwashed by the shit that I was saying, I would probably be like, hold on. We need to start putting like fact checks on the screen. Those facts kind of matter now.
And I think part of what I would really like to dig into is part of it is not even being able to agree fundamentally on like things that are factually true. You brought up that north-south divide. The difference that you were talking about there was one of legal perspective, was a conceptual perspective difference on, do states have the right to secede from the union?
Cool.
You know, how much right does an individual state have over the federal government? That same debate taking place today, you know, it would be somebody saying in the South, oh, we don't even have slaves. All of the people here live equally. And, you know, people in the North saying, you know, in the South, they literally torture these people and throw them in the river for fun, and they don't even use them for work, right? That's the level of, assuming both sides are being deluded, right? That's the level of delusion that we're on today. We don't have disagreements in law or disagreements in concept or idea or narrative about the country. It's like very foundational disagreements on things that we shouldn't have that much of a factual disagreement on.
Well,
yeah, like should we fly over and just completely blast people in the ocean while they're stranded there Should we go back and do a double tap 45 fucking minutes later? The answer should be no. There should not be another there should be no justification from the other side. It is a fucking war crime. That's it. That's a foundational principle that we should agree on. It goes against our own rules of engagement in law. It goes against national, like the world organization's rules of engagement in national law from the UN Charter and shit. Like, bro, the answer to that is no. Flat out. And the fact that you can't say that as a Republican is fucking insane. So yes, right now, a group of people in my country, however large that group is, are fucking delusional. And people I love and care about are in that fucking group of people. You know, it's fucking disgusting to watch people I love, their brain turn off and essentially join a cult. It's fucking crazy.
So I take it that what you're saying is that in the Civil War, there were genuine...
Yes, almost a bunch of men voted right and a bunch of women voted left, other than millennial men. Millennial people is, you know, the love between Trump and Israel is nauseating. I'm not touching that topic.
genuinely intelligent people on both sides, and they actually disagreed about what kind of America they wanted. They disagreed about their economic interests. They disagreed about on constitutional interpretation. They disagreed about whether they wanted to retain the status quo or go into a new type of America. Now, I would...
A new type of America? You don't get to change the status quo. What? No. See, he's just saying that it's okay to do open rebellion in America if you have a difference of opinion from people. And Destiny's making the argument that even though like some of the founders disagreed with the federal government to begin with, we did come to understand that a federal government was necessary. You can read about it in the Federalist Papers. There was a long debate about that topic, and then they decided, and then the debate was over. That's over. Unless you're talking about destroying the American Constitution, unless you're talking about making a new country, and that side isn't allowed to be around. No, you're wrong.
argue that we're having very much that exact same kind of fundamental debate right now.
And who gives you the authority to have that debate? Are you a founding father of our country? No.
Let's just take, for example, the phrase, make America great again. Bit of a cliche, Grant.
You see how he never answered the questions about the 32 counts and felony, and he's just dodging around that? It's fucking glorious.
But I would say that the implicit in that is a big idea. That there was an America that we lived in. You could say it's the America of the 50s, the America of 1965, the America of 1980. You can kind of pick your own preferred.
It's a bullshit saying back fed through nostalgia goggles. America has had a long history of wrongs and rights. Even today, America is getting wrongs and rights. America is only good when America is living up to its ideals. And those ideals are founded in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And when our country does not live up to those things, America, no matter what you believe, is not good. Our founding documents defend mankind. It's not just man, it's not just woman, it's not just white, it's not just Christian, it's people. So you can make all the civility bullshit you want. America in the 50s had problems. America in the 1920s had problems. America in the 90s had some of the worst problems America's had ever, with some of the highest gun rates and crime. And bro, the 90s were insane, okay? Everyone likes to think that when they were a kid, America was dope. It wasn't. In the 50s, people gathered around and did fucking alcohol in mass, and they put butter on everything, and they smoked cigarettes like fucking chimneys. America was more unhealthy back then. You could probably find footage of some healthy people, and yes, some cities and some areas that are incredibly poor have to live off of fast food because it's cheaper to buy off of a value menu than to go fucking grocery shopping. So yeah, maybe some Americans are fatter. Maybe America has some unhealthier standards, but some of these people are going to live to be older than that generation. Some of the people in this world are going to have more opportunities than they had 60 years ago. It doesn't matter, bro. America is going to have problems no matter what direction you go. You should aim and talk about those specific problems and say, we should hope to fix and amend these things, but we shouldn't roll the clock backwards to do so. People wouldn't care about Make America Great Again if it didn't harken back to actual fucking racism met with racist policies, trying to export all brown people. They wouldn't be against it if it wasn't about bringing women out of the workplace and putting them back in the fucking kitchen and telling them they can't vote or have rights. They would be more okay with Make America Great Again if it wasn't about bringing religious monotheism to fucking our actual structural government that goes against the founding of our very country. Like, people don't care about making America good. They don't want to bring out all the elements that made America a shithole. America is not always good. You should be able to criticize the place you live. And if you were honest about these things, you should want them to improve, because so many of us are going to have daughters, wives, girlfriends. I don't want to exist in a system that makes my girlfriend feel irrelevant. I don't want to live in a system that makes my potential daughter or whatever feel like the world's against her. Why the fuck would you? Okay.
Date, but the things worked better in this country before, in the past. We have messed up. We have become more polarized, more hateful, more violent.
Because you want big portions of our society to not be here. And you're a fucking immigrant. I don't understand.
Our goals have begun to pull further apart. I would argue that in the Reagan years, for example, the debates were not so much about goals, but about means. We all agreed that America, if you were to take a poll in 1980 or the early 80s and ask Americans, do you think America should be strong, prosperous? Do you think we should have law and order? Do you think America should be an example to the world? Do you think that most people have given the chance who want to come here? You get yes.
You guys don't even have a cohesive fucking argument anymore for your whole movement. You guys are the no new wars people, but then you put a lot of funding into the military. I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. You're also the people that want to pull all of our soldiers back and then put up borders and cut off us from the entire world. But we're not about to fucking do that. You're the people that want to pull us out of the United fucking Nations and tell us to stop help nation building around the globe and stop sending out U.S. aid. But then you talk about America being a positive force to be looked up to around the world. What the fuck are you saying, bro? Every policy you're fighting for goes against everything you just said. You use civility shit to fucking lie.
Yes, and yes. Now, you might disagree if we create a prosperous pie.
I wish immigration wasn't such a big issue in the U.S. and the UK. 100%. It's so fucking stupid, too. Because all of us know that the big problem in America right now is the fucking massive cost in everything. And the way that you can circumvent that is by building homes. But the people that have homes don't want that. So we're stuck. The middle class has been holding the fucking entire system frozen. Poor people can never escape the bubble, so they can never have fucking kids. So people aren't having fucking kids because people won't vote against their interest because they're selfish. We need to build homes, no matter who that pisses off. Build them. We have thousands of acres and millions of acres of land where you can put homes on today. We can lower that price tomorrow. But people won't vote that way because it fucks up how much money they have. They're the ones creating so many of our fucking issues, man. The middle class, these fucking baby boomers, man. They're the ones who vote. And they will not stop. Fuck. We build homes. We lower those prices. That trickles down to everything. Trickle-down economics do not work, but their inflationary causes do. What the fuck? It inflates markets. It makes us look richer than we are. It fucks up the whole system. Anyway, But immigration allows more people to come in that we don't have to raise. There is no cost to an immigrant coming here. They went from the age of 0 to the age of 1 to 35. Immigrants come here with all that cost completely omitted. The Mexican government paid for that. The Indian government paid for that shit. We didn't have to fucking spend that. The biggest expenditures are when you're a fucking child and when you're an old retired person, okay? These people absorb all of the costs in our fucking society. All of it. It's like 30% goes to old elderly people above 65 in our medical industry. And then the young ones are our kids. And we understand that we have to take care of both of these because that's what a civilized society does. But if we can import someone from another country without this cost, boom! Oh my God, and they can start producing goods immediately. And then they don't need to pull from society until they're over here. We cut out all of this. I swear to God. I swear to God, dude. It's being exploited by those on the right. Yeah.
How should that pie be shared? The argument was about that. But on the need for prosperity, on the principles of the founding, no disagreement about goals. Now, we are in America where we can't agree about goals. And I would say that one half of the country, my half, Trump's half, we think that there's a better America we want to go back to.
You don't get to make that fucking decision. No one does. 1, time is linear. 2, no. If it goes against the founding of our country, you don't get to tell women to go back in cages. People will not be back in like it's not white America, dude. And if it was, you'd be the fuck out. Why the fuck are you making these arguments, you fucking absolute troglodyte?
You don't. You want to take us into some progressive utopia. So right there.
Who doesn't want to be in a progressive utopia, you dipshit? What? Okay.
This is hardly a disagreement about facts. I mean, I guess it could be a disagreement about facts if you want to argue the facts.
Okay, so essentially he's arguing against the concept of facts so that every time he is proven to be a fucking moron, he can just say, well, the facts aren't the same thing. He's
what
been
life
talking
was
like
like
this for decades.
in 1980,
Jesus
or
Christ.
what the GDP was. I'm happy to discuss that. But I guess what I'm really saying is it is a conflict of visions. We want a society in which immigrants come to assimilate.
No, because I want that society too. All of America does. It's called a melting pot. You come to the pot and then you get intergrained into the system. That's the whole point. Liberals want that. We want you to come to America and then have liberal values. If you're a Muslim, you can come here. That's cool. You can practice your religion, but you cannot tell your wife she can't vote. You can't tell your wife that she's an obedient dog. You don't get to do that in America. You can come to America and your culture can come as long as it falls in line with our principles. Yes, that's what liberals want. That's what's codified in the Bill of Rights, dumbass.
We want a society in which affirming your identity takes a subordinate role to our identity as Americans.
Every liberal wants that too. We are Americans and then we are individuals. What the fuck? You're just using liberal arguments for conservatism, which is not how it works, bro.
We want a society in which free markets are the engine to prosperity.
We want that too, but we also want regulations on those markets so they don't take advantage of the poorest of our society. You fucking moron. I would tell you I probably agree more with you on free markets than I do with the left. But the crazy thing is, most liberals like capitalism because it allows us to be liberal. Now, we might disagree on where the line is drawn for regulations, because I think regulations are an essential necessity. Because I've worked in various businesses across my entire life in upper management. I've heard people say some of the most unethical fucking things in my life. And thank God I know of some regulations that I can throw in their face to tell them to suck my dick. Like, actually, that's against the law. We can't do that. Sorry, sir. That's called theft. We should not be stealing from our customers. Now, granted, I don't usually last long at these jobs, but the point stands that they can't ever do anything but too bad to me because it's legal. You should be able to stand up to your boss if they're asking you to fucking put goddamn poison in the water, or if they're asking you to steal from your customers. Okay? There's ethical things that we have to do outside of our job. And our society puts those laws on us. But they shouldn't just be societal norms. They should actually be penalties. If a business is caught doing stuff that is bad, they should be fined by the government. Like, I don't know, taking a shortcut with a medicine where maybe thousands of people die. Like, maybe they should have to pay an absorbent amount of money to the families and victims of these things. Like, no, everyone's okay with this. Matter of fact, some people say we don't go far enough. Like, some people say, oh man, Kaiser Permanente or whatever the fuck, they only paid $5 billion. It's like, that's a lot of fucking money, bro. Anyway.
We want a society in which we recognize that the world is made up of very dangerous people, and sometimes you have to smash in a few heads in order to protect your own interests.
Liberalism.
We want to live in a society where there's the rule of law, and if you come here illegally,
How do they do this? I don't understand how they get to LARP as like the law people. Like during BLM, they had a good argument because the left were like, hey, you know, BLM's okay. It's like, no, they're actually tearing down cities and doing a lot of terrible shit. And they're lying to them. They kept almost all that money for their own selves and shit. Monsters, honestly. But the idea behind BLM was a good one. Okay. How do they get to do that today though? They did January 6th. They killed a cop. That's crazy. That's a thing they did. And then after that, they pardoned all those J6ers. Donald Trump has been found guilty of 32 or 34 felony counts. He had to, he got hit essentially with sexual assault on a woman, which was like just rape. He raped a woman, and he's in the Epstein files. They've been caught breaking numerous laws. They do not uphold the Constitution. They are doing illegal strikes on foreign nations that we are not at war with. How do they get to pretend to be the law and order people? That's us. We're the ones asking for accountability. We're the ones now asking to release the Epstein file. Okay? That's us. You don't get to hold that badge anymore, bro. You guys are the lawbreakers, and you're the ones running defense for pedophiles. That's you. And you're the ones who riled up your dumb fucking base into believing it. You're the ones that talked about it all the heck of time on your guys' stages. You get out there and be like, the fucking Epstein files are coming out, baby. And then you guys did it for fucking years. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, whatever the fucking his dipshit name is. Your dumbass. Donald Trump's own fucking son did it. Like, you guys set the fucking... How are you guys this unintelligent? Like, you guys are just so incompetent. I don't understand. How would you run on something for like fucking 6 years? And then as soon as you get the power, you're like, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. And then you're going to sit here and tell these Americans today that you're for the party of law and order. Really? The one who questions every law? They call it lawfare when they went after Trump instead of him just being held accountable for the things he did. That's you guys. How are you the law? I swear to God that, again, when Destiny said you guys are delusional, he's not lying.
there's every right to send you home. There's no such thing as a good lawbreaker or a bad lawbreaker any more than there's such a thing as good discrimination and bad discrimination. So these, I've just articulated several, and I could keep going, principles. This has nothing to do with whether Trump had a bag of documents in Mar-a-Lago. It is a conflict of visions, and it seems to me that you are denying that. Either that or you just agree right now that all the principles I've articulated are yours as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say exactly that. The issue that I have with the more abstract, high-level conceptual conversations is that everybody agrees with these things.
Yep.
That
You do?
People should, yeah, of course.
Yes.
People should
Okay.
be,
So this is something I say all the time, and people get mad at me. If you're saying, I apologize, but when we say something as simple as greed bad, you're not saying anything. The statement you just made is a statement that every person I've ever met in my life has agreed to. We disagree on where greed is greed. And that's the conversation people need to have because it differs for each person. You can't just say greed bad. That is a blank statement that has nothing to it. We all agree. It is so agreed upon that it means nothing. The only way to find a value in that statement is to point out what you mean by greed and diving in where that line is for you. Another way you can say this in an opposite way is the fact that some people ask for qualifiers. This one's going to make my girlfriend a little mad at me, and I love her. Drink. But when I make a statement, I'll say, these fucking people over here are this or that, you know, and she's like, well, not all people. And I'm like, well, that's already an agreed on thing. I shouldn't have to clarify the difference. We already know I don't mean all of them or all of this side or all of that. I'm speaking just loosely. Anyway, she's going to hit me again. Hi. I love you. Are you okay? I said she's going to hit me. I'm joking, actually. She does not hit me. Though, there could be, I mean, it is my birthday, so maybe I'm joking, guys. I'm just fucking around. Sorry.
be here relatively, legally as far as you can be. People should be here.
As far as you can be. What is it? This is kind of like saying I favor law breaking. I don't favor law breaking unless it's
Sure, I say as far as you can be because some immigration stuff is hazy. So, for instance, sometimes conservatives seem like they're okay with asylum seekers, like they suddenly are with South Africans who are white.
Yeah. Again, qualifiers do matter when you're talking about specifics. If you were talking about a specific thing, because like a lot of people will say that's just semantics. That's a semantic disagreement. And yes, there are times where semantic disagreements are needless. Like when you're saying like, hey man, I'll be over in a bit, and then you show up in like 5 minutes or whatever. Or when you're like saying, hey, Jordy ran over to the door, and it's like, did he run or did he just fast walk? Well, okay, that's a semantic difference. But when you're having a definitional conversation or a medic level conversation, those semantics are the conversation. And that's the whole point why you're here.
Other times they seem like they don't believe in asylum seeking at all. So I'm cutting out a little bit of on the edge here for presidential things like TPS, temporary protected status, things like DACA. For the most part, broadly speaking,
Put out into the world what you mean. Non-specifics mean you are ignorant or trying hard to rule the conversation. I'm sorry. I would agree to some extent that you should put out what you mean.
I largely agree that everybody should be here in as legal process as possible. I think that people should, as far as they can, try not to break any laws. People get speeding tickets. Obviously, you shouldn't be shot for this. But broadly speaking, everything you say, everybody agrees with. But the issue is that when we have these high-level conceptual disagreements, say, for instance, we should have a president who doesn't commit crimes, and then we have a president who has clearly committed crimes, and one side sees that very plainly, and the other side screams lawfare, that's not true. There is a factual distinction there that's not a difference of ideology or a difference of vision. It's a difference of understanding factually of what's in.
I don't even know. Hey, be back soon, Stuart. I don't even know why I talked. Dude, Destiny just did it all right there in one sentence. Like, I swear to God. There is a factual disagreement between these two groups of people. 100%.
Ideology or a different is a vision. It's a difference of understanding factually of of what's in the record. And the unfortunate thing is we're not talking about complicated physics or chemistry or biology. It's very simple facts. If you can read a simple indictment, you can see how things are laid out. And it should be a thing that 95% of the population can grasp and understand. Like, for instance, that Donald Trump took documents from the White House that he didn't have authorization to keep. He showed them to multiple people at Mar-a-Lago. He refused to cooperate, first with the National Archives and Records Administration and then with the FBI. And then eventually his home was raided.
And not only all of that, he has recordings of him telling that to people. I shouldn't show this to you. I really shouldn't. It's actually classified, but I'm fucking Donald Trump. Like, he did that. That's like a thing. He actually admitted the crime on recording. He instructed people in his building to move the documents multiple times. We have video or photograph evidence of these things being. He was found guilty in a court of law by New Yorkers who love Donald Trump. Sorry, I got really loud there. I apologize. I heard it through my girlfriend's headphones. But anyway, yeah, what? Come on.
Some documents were never recovered. The whole time, he was in the complete and total wrong in multiple levels, but the right refused to acknowledge this, screamed lawfare over and over again, and then when you push them on things like, don't you think it's good to have like a rule of law, they appeal to these high-level concepts like, well, freedom and the past was good and all this, and it's like, well, if we can't talk about any particular instances of anything happening, it's a pointless conversation.
Well, I find that this habit is hardly confined to the right.
No, it is not hardly confined to the right. It is on both sides. It's like 90% on the right, 5% on centrist, and then like 5% on the left. That's it. Yeah, you're right. There is some on the left, but by and large, it is one side.
I'm something of an expert on the 2020 election, and I've given talks about it.
What?
And every time I talk about it, someone goes, well, there clearly is nothing wrong in the 2020 election because there were 50 cases where these things were adjudicated. Now, there's not a single case in which the actual allegations of fraud were adjudicated on all kinds of procedural.
Okay, this dude's doing a hard pivot, but this is a bad move for him because Destiny knows all of this. And the reason why they weren't properly adjudicated is because most of the cases were thrown out because they had no merit. But he knows this because his case was thrown out because no judge would read it. Because once they got into the information, there was no merit to their claim. If you don't have a sufficient argument for a judge to say there might be something here to look into, and they throw it out, that's because you didn't supply sufficient information. That's not that the judges are corrupt. What the fuck, dude?
Obstacles or issues of standing, these cases were dismissed. You should.
So remember, he's now attacking the system in which he said he wanted to defend, right? So he's used civility, and now he's using that civility to attack the very system of governance that we use. These people want to change the way America operates. They don't want to uphold our Constitution, and they don't want to uphold the Bill of Rights. They want to change them. That's why they use their fake civility to do whatever the fuck they want.
Should have brought the case before the election. You had to do that. Obviously, the fraud was not obvious then. If you brought it after the election, it's moot. Or this is brought at the state level, it needs to be at the federal level. And so the procedural adjudication is considered adequate to establish the veracity or the validity of the 2020 election.
Just as a quick thing.
I'll just finish my point and you can jump
we
in.
can do the 2020 election. So do you concede on the whole Mar-a-Lago thing that Trump was retaining documents and then we can move to the 2020 election?
A good refocus, dude. You need to refocus because he just went on a whole different tangent. This is what they do, by the way. They pivot. They will never own up to a fault in their argument. Dare I say it's the one reason why I respect some people way more than these grifter fake fucks. Like, if you just own the failures in your argument and say, fuck it, yeah, that means so much to the audience. One, it shows that you're not performing. This performance does nothing for anybody. I don't even think a Republican's going to watch this and go, hell yeah, brother, we're doing good out there. They're going to be like, dude, Who gives a fuck? No, that's a bullshit. Say he did nothing wrong. Do the claim. Like, that's what you believe.
Address Mar-a-Lago. I'm setting up the intellectual groundwork by saying
No, you're
that
setting
on
up
the 2020
the framing.
election, statements are made that are accepted as gospel by the left. Let's take a simple one that was repeated ad nauseum. The 2020 election was the safest, most secure election in U.S. history. To which I ask, where is the evidence that there was less fraud in 2020 than in 2016, 2012?
Why would ever anyone need to supply that to you? No, you don't get to see that evidence. Do the fucking research yourself.
2008, 2004. Where is that demonstration? Who has actually done a comparative evaluation of the amount of fraud in recent, forget about old elections, and shown that there was less in 2020? The answer is, not only has this never been demonstrated, it has never been attempted.
There's no way to verify voting fraud in like America. You just can't do it. We don't keep track of your vote. We just keep track of a vote, not whose vote. We don't want a system where we can do that, because then people could buy votes. People shouldn't know who you voted for. The only person that should know who you voted for is you.
And so an utterly idiotic statement, almost preposterous on its face. We know that this election we just had, and we're proclaiming it to be the safe.
See, they're doing the same thing that Christians do in their argument for God. The natural set is there is no voter fraud. That is the natural order of things. If there is voter fraud, you have to demonstrate that voter fraud. And then you have to prove that voter fraud. The natural state is there is none. The natural state is we're all doing things in our society the way that we ought to, because we were raised with moral oughts. If you want to say there's a problem with the system, you have to prove that problem. Again, if you want to say God is real, the natural state of things is that he's not. You have to prove his existence. You don't get to like rebuild the wheel and say that there's always voter fraud, because you can't prove that. There is no way to measure that. Now, we accept the universal truth that in every election, there's going to be some errors or miscommunications or some small level of fraud. But when we're talking about fraud, we're talking like a percentile that isn't going to throw a vote. And we even have systems in place on the opportunity that they do. We have recounts. We have the Supreme Court that can ultimately step in and make a decision based on what it is. But that's also why we have different systems of governance. We don't just have a popular vote. We also have the Electoral College. We have systems in check to prevent fraud. It's crazy, right? Like the people that founded our country 250 years ago, they planned for so much of this.
Safest ever, with zero empirical evidence produced to support that. And yet, the entire left, to my knowledge, without exception, went along, nodded its head, except...
No one on the left just said it's the safest and secure. A handful of talking heads would say that. A few influencers said that. But my problem with the left are those people. So, no. A majority of people understand that a small modicum of fraud is going to happen. Sometimes you take in 2 ballots by accident, or sometimes you get a ballot that your husband, your late husband was there like 7 months ago or whatever, and he's not been knocked off the registry or something. Sometimes little minor things like that do happen, but they're such a small percentage that they're essentially non-existent. If a drug is 99% effective, you're going to say that it's an effective drug. If a drug is 65% effective, you're going to say it's an effective drug. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Accepted this as true, became very scornful of any attempts to show the contrary. So Doesn't this show factual dogmatism on the left?
No, because you didn't give any concrete evidence for the claims you were making. You have to convince people, and your failure to do so is not dogmatism on the left. It's that you're fucking incapable of it, because the left typically uses rationality. Now, yes, if you go further down the political paradigm, they start getting more radical, and more radical people are more likely to be less intelligent and more inclined to believe into conspiracy theories and their particular side, and they'll never reach across. Yes, but that just, by and large, those that lead the left do so way more effectively than those on the right.
That is just as corrosive as anything on the right?
No. So, we can go through any of these statements. I'm still putting a pin in the Mar-a-Lago thing because I think it's important to go back to, but I'm very familiar with the 2020 election.
Okay.
I think the issue is that, one, when people say, well, it wasn't adjudicated on the facts, it was tossed on standing or procedural grounds, that's bad for the person bringing the case. If you're losing on standing, then you must have never had a serious case to begin with, because that is literally the easiest part of a case to survive. To build a prima facie case saying that I have authorization to bring this case in front of this court has subject matter jurisdiction, and it's the appropriate venue to hear the case, and here are my complaints where I'm alleging that a law was broken. In half these, they didn't even have the remedies that they were looking for was to toss the entire outcome of that election, which is an insane remedy if you're looking for that. A court's not even going to bother to hear the case, because the whole point of a court hearing a case is that they're going to grant you some kind of relief. If a court can't do anything about it, then the court's not going to listen to it. Number one. Number two, for the evidence that was made public, we know that for a lot of this, it was a blatant lie. So for instance, when we watch Trump's lawyers show and we watch Trump talk about the hidden boxes and that in the State Farm arena that were pulled out from under the table and put back, and we don't know where they came from, we do know where they came from. And you can tell, because if you watch the full 6-hour video where she's giving a presentation to the state election board or state legislature or whatever, you can see her fast forward 10 minutes where they were counting, they finished counting for the night, they take the boxes, put them on the floor, slide them under. 10 minutes later, they get a call saying, actually, we're going to resume counting because we want to get these results out faster. They take the same boxes out, they put them on the table. Not only was that a complete and total bold-faced lie when it was first presented in court or presented to the public, it was a lie that Trump repeated up to and including his speech on January 6th, where he encouraged his followers to go and riot at the Capitol to try to delay the outcome of the election. So every single case has been some variation of them not knowing if a law was broken. You can listen to hours and hours of deposition. You can read the subpoenas. You can read the judge's decisions. There's a reason why you guys will say, well, all of them were thrown out. None was adjudicated on the merits. Trump, was president for 4 years. He had Barr look into all of these claims. Barr said that all of them were BS. Trump is president now. He has the ability to go back and look at stuff. Nothing has been dug up. In fact, the first time Trump was president, when he also made claims that the election was rigged, he put together an election board to look at if there was any impropriety or fraud that happened in any of the states, and they found nothing. They disbanded it in a year. For the final point, you bring this point up that wow, it's crazy that they say this was the safest election ever because there hasn't been a comparative analysis on fraud. I think the point of the statement was to say that there were more people, more cameras, more systems that were looking at this election than in any prior election. And I would argue that just like how DOJ went through the entire government and massively failed at discovering any waste, fraud, or abuse, Donald Trump and all of his cronies have been looking at so much election-related stuff, and the only fraud, weird stuff we've seen has come from the Republican side. Tina Peters being a great example of that. Trump trying to steal the election with his false elector sites being another great example of that.
All right. So
how the fuck is he going to do this?
So let me offer a couple thoughts. Number one, if you're right that a bungled legal effort failed on account of the incompetence of the people who tried to prove the fraud, I would argue by the same token that the Democratic goofballs who launched 90-plus charges against Trump in multiple jurisdictions were equally dumb because they made claims that they were unable to sustain. The cases were thrown out, made moot, exposed to the public for their prima facie idiocy, or they capsized of their own weight. They were withdrawn. Fani Willis was basically had her own problems and had to withdraw. The successors basically decided that's the end of that. So
why are we not? How is this? How are you not answering? They never answer a single fucking question. Ever. Ever. How did you fucking dipshits vote for these retards? What's wrong with you people?
So what I'm getting at is either we rely on the legal process as a pretty fair adjudicator of these kinds of claims, in which case you got to grant that the case against Trump ended up, think of it, you didn't have one shot. You had like 7 shots at this guy. You failed on all of them. Even in the one place where you, quote, got him on the ultimate bogus case, which was in New York, the judge himself was too timid to impose a verdict and basically says, Mr. Trump, you can go.
So your argument is because Donald Trump got elected and we upheld our laws that, what are you arguing? That we didn't have the stones? Like, how is that? How is this an anti-argument for anything that Destiny said? They live in a delusional world, guys. They're fucking insane.
Go, I wish you well. Even the judge knew that he was part of a political game and he had to fess up. Because if he was really enforcing the law,
really?
Think of it, if you or I were found guilty of 34 felonies.
You were found guilty and then pardoned, asshole!
The judge would have said, I'm imposing a sentence. My sentence might be overturned or maybe held to be invalid. But this man has broken the law 34 times. In fact, think of the stupidity. This was 34 different checks, so apparently it's 34 different felonies. The lawfare of it couldn't be more obvious or blatant.
God.
Now,
Rule of law,
why did the
people
jury
remember.
Well, why did the jury convict him in New York?
What's
though?
that?
Why did the jury convict him if it was just lawfare?
Because a jury in New York, like a jury in D.C., is going to be... Well, all right.
Aren't you saying then that half the country is living in delusion if you can't even trust a jury of every single person? That a single person could say, I don't agree with the verdict here?
Yes, that's what he's saying. Remember, he said that framing was bad, but now he's saying that all of the people, our court system is completely corrupted by delusional people that have TDS. You know what I'm saying? Like, see, he used civility to make a claim, and then all of his claims since then go against the initial claim. See how he's lying to you? And you guys voted for this. Why? How are you okay? How are you not mad? How are you not mad that you were conned by a bunch of fucking assholes that used your stupidity and your anger as a weapon against you? While you have now more expensive groceries, people are getting completely fucked over in your country. Millions of people are going to lose their medical insurance. Actually, I think it just happened. Good job, guys. You guys are fucking idiots. Stop reading, please. Holy fuck.
You think the OJ jury got it right?
The OJ, that's a totally different case with
Well, I mean, if
factual
you trust
accounting.
the jury, then they got it right.
I can say that juries
Don't
might.
agree.
I can say, wait. I can disagree with juries sometimes. You just said that there are 2 sections of the United States, in New York and D.C., and I'm willing to bet you'd say other states where there is no jury that could hear. Well, I'm curious. Actually, fine. There are things in the OJ case that I think it seems like he was clearly guilty of something. What law in New York State that he was convicted of breaking, that he received almost 34 felony counts for, do you think he didn't actually break? Did he not lie when he paid his lawyer Cohen a fee that was actually just a money transfer?
See how Destiny initially wanted to like not own up? Because like the argument isn't that juries are 100% correct. That's not what Destiny's trying to say. And that's why he made a stupid fucking throwaway argument to try to obfuscate from the point. If Destiny would have just kept like, oh, I don't give a shit about that and moved on, that would have looked worse for him. Now he's just like, well, that's not my argument. But let's just say you're right. Let's go into the next layer. Just do that. Just dive deeper. It's okay. Have the conversation. You may not convince people right away, but if you're willing to own things on your side or dig into things without running, no matter who's watching, eventually they're going to start going, fuck, why is my guy being such a pussy? You know what I mean? So good on Destiny. Good job.
To Stormy Daniels and then commit a bookkeeping fraud on the furtherance of that lie, which is why the misdemeanor was upgraded to a felony. Do you think that's not true?
One of the problems with living in this kind of society today, and one of the essential defining elements of lawfare is simply to ask this question. If anybody...
See how he has to go through like a long Hasanabi style explanation? He's got to set the stage, the theme, the motif. He's got to go through the entire setting so that he can just answer a question, because if his answer was honest, he would just say that. You don't need to do all that stuff. You don't need to like set up pillars of argumentation so that when like one point is proven wrong, you're like, okay, let's remove that one. Okay, let's just say that. He's just lying, guys. That's all it is.
else did that. Or if Trump himself did it, but was not running for president, would these charges have been brought? And again,
yes.
We're all watching this. We're not on the jury. We're watching this as spectators from the outside. We've got to use a certain rule of common sense. You have this guy, Trump.
Common sense,
He's
here
in
we
the
go.
thick of New York real
We're getting the Asmongold take right here. From now on, common sense to me is just going to mean I'm fucking mentally challenged.
estate. He's in the thick of all these claims of bombastic claims. My Mar-a-Lago's worth X. This is worth Y. My assets are worth this. Everybody does this. Now, if all of this was so fraudulent, how does the man go 75 years of his life without a single charge? Then interestingly...
Wait! What the fuck kind of... He was never found guilty before. No, Donald Trump had a lot of money. And we're seeing now that he paid off a lot of people. And he did get found guilty for other crimes throughout his life. He failed lawsuits. He sued people. He had not won. Like, he had had guilty verdicts before. Now, maybe some of them were civil lawsuits. Maybe he settled out of court. But Donald Trump has been in and out of courtrooms for a very long time. The fuck are you talking about? And that doesn't disprove that he's guilty for any of these things. Most people go their entire life without committing a crime. Isn't that crazy? Most people never get found guilty for a crime. But that doesn't mean he didn't rape you or something. What kind of fucking argument is this? I'm sorry.
He enters politics as a Republican. 93.
He's been in politics for 40 fucking years, and he threatened running for 20. He's been paying people to do his bidding in New York for a very long time. He was one of the #1 funders to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. He's been in politics for a very long time.
Charges are dropped on his head. Now, if you genuinely think, and look, we could very well in this audience be exploring the delusions we're talking about. If you genuinely are a smart guy and you think, I think that's right. The guy was squeaky clean for 75 years.
He wasn't.
Then he became a habitual criminal and committed 93 offenses.
He was not squeaky clean. He's been sued multiple times. His businesses have been hit by, what is that shit? I can't even remember what that board is. Donald Trump has not been squeaky clean this whole time. And this is further evidence of that. Donald Trump does bully tactics in the background. And he's done that as part of his character. He openly admits it, by the way. Squeaky clean when he was grabbing women by the pussy. Squeaky clean while he was on Epstein's Island. Bro, Donald Trump is many things. But squeaky clean has never been one of them. That motherfucker paints that gold on his body to hide the dog shit that is the person beneath. Holy fuck.
Warranting the guy being jailed for life, a guy who just happens to have been the president of the United States and on the verge of being reelected a second time, but you don't have to worry about that if you can put him away. And this doesn't raise any issues of political target.
Or maybe, let's actually use common sense, okay? Donald Trump, let's say all of this dipshit's arguments are true, okay? Let's just look at this through the eyes of any other individual on the planet, okay? Donald Trump has never had a problem with the law, but now he does. What is a more explainable thing? What is more going to fit in Occam's razor, okay? Donald Trump is being hunted down because maybe he committed a crime, or Donald Trump is being persecuted. Well, that's weird. The House of Representatives and all the people said that Donald Trump's out of office, so they're not going to go after him. So he's not being persecuted. He's being allowed to run again. But while this is all going on, someone's overgoing all of these particular things. And they set a court, they put indictments through, there's recordings, there's video evidence, there's photographic evidence. And then they go to court and Donald Trump's found guilty. What's more likely? All of these people are secret agents sent by the deep state to convince the left that because it's in New York, all these leftists have gathered together and they're going to crucify Donald Trump because they're going to stop him from becoming president because all of the stuff is AI generated and it's all real and none of it's real or maybe Donald Trump just did that shit. Common sense, right? Like, isn't it more likely that Donald Trump just committed a crime? Isn't that just more likely? And isn't it more likely that he was found guilty of that crime by a peer, by his peers, those that, came out and were on the jury, a jury of his peers, as they say. Like, isn't that just more likely than like some deep state agency that manipulated everything and we have no evidence that any of this is what you're saying it is? Isn't that what common sense would dictate? Occam's razor is the simplest solution is that he probably just committed the crime and we don't have to go on to a 20-minute tangent trying to explain away how Donald Trump is a common sense. What the fuck are we doing?
Stalinism, find me the man and I'll find you the crime. If you genuinely don't think any of that is at issue, then we are the little bit of an intellectual breakdown here.
Oh, so now it's okay if people don't agree with your side, that they're delusioned. But you said having that sentiment was what? Dangerous? But here you are having that sentiment while you also got to morally grandstand against us that's saying that you're a delusional fucking nut job. Well, you see how he just talks out of both sides of his fucking mouth and it's all bullshit? And maybe we should just call a spade a fucking spade and say that this guy's a Trump dick suck because he got pardoned by Donald Trump and that I expect him to deep throat as much of that tiny dick as he can. Holy fuck.
So this isn't an intellectual breakdown. This is a bad conversation about politics with your family at Thanksgiving. There has to be a better factual analysis than isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that
Yes.
Yeah, so the 34 felonies that he was charged with and convicted of in New York State, he did those. For the Mar-a-Lago documents case, this is the thing, he couldn't have possibly been charged with a crime like this before having a security clearance or being in a job with security clearance because he wouldn't have had access to these documents. So for the Mar-a-Lago case, he took classified material from the White House, stored it in an area where classified material is now to be kept. Yep. He showed other people some of that classified material. And then he resisted efforts from NARA and the FBI to retrieve said material, and he was directing his employees to hide it and lie to the FBI when they were requesting information about this material. This is incredibly unique.
The first part of that is true, and all the rest of it is not true.
Which part of it was not true?
The first part of it, that he took the documents, is true. The second question is, how does a president who takes...
Dog, they're in the indictments, and two, there's video evidence, there's recordings. Again, they destroy the network of information because they can't contend with the facts.
His own documents, which he has the plenary power to declassify.
Yes, when he is in the fucking White House, which he was not in. See, this is what we call rule of law. There are standards, there are practices, and you follow them. If you are the president and you declassify the documents, he could have taken them home. Here's what happened. He did not do that. So they're not declassified. He doesn't get to take them home. He doesn't get to use them to increase his economic value. That's called breaking the law. The thing you said you want to defend. We have practices for a reason. Yes. Holy fuck.
How does he prima facie violate the law, especially when you consider that pretty much every other president, going back to Nixon, had documents?
The difference is, by the way, that when Biden had documents, he contacted NARA and said, I have documents that I don't think I'm supposed to have. What is the best way to give you these documents so I don't get in trouble? Donald Trump would not reach out. And then when he was reached out to, he lied, he obfuscated and hid them. He bragged about it on camera. They're not the same thing. One was following the law. And when he found out he wasn't following the law, he contacted the fucking law. Donald Trump actively broke the law and then hid it from people. See, in a court of law, we use your state of mind to determine what you're doing. And based off of your actions, we can determine your state of mind. Someone who has broken a law by accident that then self-reports themselves and contacts the agency and says, hey man, I'm breaking a law. I don't want to break a fucking law. How do I stop this? It's not the same thing as someone going, I'm breaking a law and fuck you. I'm going to keep breaking the fucking law. These are two different things, and they're met with two different responses from the government, as they should, because the intent behind these things are different. One is a lie, and the other one is a mistake.
Mike,
You're gonna have a fucking
Biden
aneurysm.
had documents in his garage, including a bunch sitting in his car. These documents were fully exposed. There were documents at the Penn Biden Center, accessible to everyone. And yet the guy who looks into it goes, I don't think we should charge this guy because he's kind of forgetful and he won't really withstand trial because he tends not to remember things. I mean, since when does somebody get a...
The intent is what the crime follows. If you have criminal intent, it is a crime. What the fuck? Plus the tops.
a pass from a serious offense because they don't have a very good memory of the stuff that they manifestly did. So when you suddenly develop this kind of selective...
We all know that what he just said is wrong, right? Like, this is another one of those foundational questions we need to, like, as a country, need to agree on. If a person has lost their mind, we can't charge them typically for crimes. Or if we do something like that, it's more of for show. Like, if a person has severe dementia, like, we're not going to go like, oh, that guy's a serial killer. We're going to be like, oh, fuck, well, okay, we're fucked. We don't get to punish this person. Because part of the punishment is the person going through, like, remorse. So when people do things that are, like, crimes of passion can be labeled as insanity. Or when people lose their mind, we don't charge them with the same level of criminality as someone who is doing predetermined, premeditated fucking murder. There's a difference in these things. That's why sometimes we have manslaughter or murder. We separate these things based off of intent and your mental capabilities to do things. Yes, if Biden, one, contacts FARA and says, I have the wrong information, and also he's kind of fucking old, maybe, just maybe, there's no fucking reason to go after him because he showed no criminal intent. Maybe you hit him with a fine. Maybe you slap him on the wrist. Maybe he gets like a moment of like, oh man, I fucked up. And that's going to be a public hit to his persona for fucking years. Maybe there's a small price to pay for what he did. But that doesn't mean we go after him with criminal court unless he's doing criminal things. Criminal intent is required for a lot of stuff. Now, it's not a universal, yes, you can commit a crime. There are some crimes that are zero tolerance. Intent may not be required, like copyright is one of them, and, you know, stuff like that. But by and large, okay, which is a qualifier that you shouldn't have to give. Politicians should have to take a mental capacity test. Hell yeah, Stuart, and welcome back.
aggression. Trump has done all these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you conveniently have routinely taken their own stuff. Then again, I have
I'm not gonna lie, dude, that cutting out was probably better for him.
to say that this looks to me quite clearly a case of isolating Trump. I mean, the way we know
Well, here, real quick, just on this, because you laid out some facts and the factual.
You said he obstructed.
Well, wait, real quick. So you say these words prima facie. Prima facie means has the person who is under the jurisdiction of some place, has he met the prerequisite elements to have committed the crime? So the crime of retention of classified materials requires intent. So one funny thing that conservatives like to do is they like to say that, well, Herr said that Biden was forgetful and he wouldn't be able to stand trial because of his forgetfulness. That's not true. What Herr was speaking to when he was speaking of Biden's state of mind was that he probably forgot that he had these documents here or that he was storing these things. The crime that speaks, the federal statutes that talk about the retention of classified material that makes it a crime is knowing that you actually have them. That's why when Biden contacted NARA contacted the FBI and said, hey, we have classified documents here. We think you guys should come and grab them. They weren't convicted or charged with any crimes because it seems like they weren't trying to intentionally store classified material. As opposed to Donald Trump, who was showing documents to people, and you say, well, they were his, right? Why did he say twice, I could have unclassified these, or I could have declassified these, but I didn't? And also, as a second quick thing, the president does not have plenary authority for declassification of everything, especially when it comes to the Department of Energy, which has nuclear secrets, especially when you're talking about TSSCI, SAP, separate access programs, or special access programs that are part of our nuclear secrets that Donald Trump was keeping at Mar-a-Lago. So even that he couldn't have declassified on his own.
Here's the problem.
God damn, I don't know how Destiny does this shit off of memory. People say, oh, dude, his people just send him stuff. He doesn't have anything to send him. He's just doing it for fucking memory. I owned up to stuff on my side of the argument that I didn't have to. I could have just done that. Holy fuck, he's the king for a reason. God damn.
I mean, had this case proceeded all the way, and these elements of the crime that you're describing been proven, we could then debate what was going on. I'll give you the Trump side of it. I took these documents. I was contacted by the National Archives, NARA.
Okay, cool. At least he's being honest. He was contacted. Thank you. There's some truth here.
I guess it's called, about the fact you need to give some of these documents back. What does some mean here? Trump is like, some of them may be mine, some of them I may.
That's not up to him. He doesn't. So you're making a justification for Trump breaking the law. Thank you. He finally was honest. It just took him all of this time to just say, yeah, Donald Trump thinks that he can break the law.
Have to return, and so a process now begins of bargaining back and forth. At one point,
you don't bargain with the law. The law says you have this. If you follow the law, you give this back. Donald Trump was not in office. Donald Trump had no authority or no power. That's not how that works. You do not tell the law. It's not a process. It's not a bargain. You give back what they request. And if they took more, they'll send it back, bro.
FBI comes to Mar-a-Lago. Remember, Mar-a-Lago is a protected facility. Comes to Mar-a-Lago.
A protected facility from the federal government? How did that happen? Can I explain that to me, buddy? Protected. What do you mean by protected facility? Let's Jordan Peterson your ass. What could you possibly mean by a protected facility? Is it a military compound? Every facility in this country, other than like consulates and shit for other countries, answer to the federal fucking government. What do you mean protected facility? I'm so... Maybe he'll expand upon that. Or he's just going to say a buzzword and then move on. Is that what he's... I feel like that's what he's going to do.
And puts a padlock on the storage facility where the documents are held. So what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a president who finishes his term.
Okay, so a former president. So at least he's adding that in there. So he's not a president. He's a former president.
People come into the White House, clear all the stuff out. Where are they going to move it? They move it, not surprisingly, to the residence, Mar-a-Lago. And then begins this process of negotiating over these documents. If you're saying based upon the fact that you think that laws were broken, I would say, what? Because Destiny thinks that the president broke the law, we should lock him up? No. If you can show me a legal process where these elements of the crime were proven, We could
Don't
look
do
at
it.
it.
Don't
Well,
do it.
that's what an indictment is showing these are the laws that we're saying that he broke. This is the evidence
I
we're
read the
presenting to the grand
indictment.
jury. Okay, well then you know that the grand jury returned an okay to charge Donald Trump with these crimes.
Okay.
Also, you said that Mar-a-Lago was secured, not secured for the storage of classified information. And if Donald Trump truly had nothing to hide and he was cooperating and returning things as he should, why was he having his employee hide boxes from his own lawyers so that they would not be fully truthful, not of their own fault, but because they had no idea when they were communicating with the FBI about documents that Trump was retaining and that he was having brought to his room, going over, taking some back, keeping others, and then telling Nauta, his employee, to lie to the lawyers about what they were hiding.
Whenever you have an indictment, the prosecution in this case.
Are we going to hear, I can indict a ham sandwich? Is that what we're about to hear? Federal indictments usually come with a very high bar of success. Matter of fact, I think they're in the 96th percentile.
It was the Biden administration.
It was Jack Smith. It was a special prosecutor.
Okay, Jack
not the
Smith.
Biden
It was a special prosecutor
Yeah.
appointed by the Biden regime.
It wasn't appointed.
He wasn't appointed by the Biden regime, and he was a special prosecutor that didn't answer to Joe Biden.
By Biden. It was appointed by Merrick Garland, the
He was
attorney
appointed
general.
by Merrick Garland. It's not part
It's
of the
confusing
Biden
because
regime.
Trump
Yeah,
wants to
hello?
directly control his attorney general, but most presidents don't do that
come
because it's
on.
seen as corrupt.
Merrick
True.
Garland was an objective.
There is a universal standard that the president is not involved directly with the DOJ. They place a DOJ head, and then the DOJ head runs the organization. Now, there might be an like they might say we're going to have a war on crime or something, but they don't direct their DOJ who to go for and what to do. That is done by the Department of Justice. All they do is hire the department head. And Biden left the department head that Donald Trump hired. Biden did one of the best shows of like ethics that any president has ever done. He kept in the guy that was investigating his son and his family for potential corruption. Biden left that guy working. Like the guy that thinks that you're a criminal, he left him in a position of power to either prove it. He told that guy to continue the investigation into his own son and his own family. You don't get much more ethics than that, dude.
Fair-minded. He was not making any kind of political. Listen,
Why wasn't the special prosecutor appointed on day one?
You're actually trying to get me to enter into your dream world here, and I'm
only talking facts.
I'm not. There are no facts.
This
There
is
were
all facts.
No, because an indictment is allegations. Unless the indictment is presented in court, the other side gets to fight back. It's like if I were to take any indictment and read it.
He's not saying the indictment is 100% proof, but we have a process, and that process typically results in a very common sense, right? If you have like a 97% success rate with your indictments that you put out as a federal entity, a 97% success rate, we have video recordings, photographic evidence, statements, people admitted wrongdoing. If we have all of that, along with the indictments, it's easy to believe that these things are. However, in America, unless you are guilty of it and proven guilty, no, on a foundational level, Donald Trump wasn't found guilty of certain crimes. But that's not what we're talking about here. The reason why is the cases were dropped because he became president, and you cannot sue or go after a president because of Donald Trump's bullshit with the Supreme Court.
And then I think, oh, the guy obviously did it because he did this, he bought a gun, this and that. I haven't read the counterpoints. I haven't seen the cross-examination. It hasn't gone to court. But if you accept all the claims in the
Because he got
indictment as
elected!
quote, factually true and consider that there's no other side of the matter, then it's easy to go, I got the facts.
So then wouldn't it be easy for you to just say, if everything in the indictment is true, Donald Trump would be guilty of those crimes rather than try to make excuses for what was in the indictment? Because there's another weird game that I notice the conservatives play where conservatives will do this thing where they'll defend a thing and then after they've defended the thing, they'll say that the thing that they were defending is indefensible, but if it did happen, they give justifications for it anyway. Why not just say, well, I don't believe what's in the indictment, even though you say that they're just allegations? They're
Well,
not. You have to show evidence to a grand jury to secure the indictment, so there is at least some evidence that's presented.
And look, the indictment contains elements of...
Exactly. That's what I should have said, but I'm not going to. Then say it, Dinesh. If Donald Trump did the things that you're alleging, Donald Trump... I had this moment with my mom, bro. I called up my mom, and my mom told me Donald Trump will never pardon the J6ers. And then when he pardoned all of them, I called her up the next day and was like, well, he did that. And she's like, well, what do you want me to say? I don't know. Call it out, man. You said he wouldn't do it. He did it. You should say that's a knock on his character. You should just be able to admit that. You shouldn't be so bought into a side that you can't admit the fault of your side. I criticize the left. I criticize the right. I criticize men. I criticize women. I criticize white guys, black guys, every person, dude. Because everyone is worthy of criticism. We are flawed creatures and we make mistakes. It's okay to say that, man. Sometimes I'm wrong. That's okay. I'm probably going to be wrong in like 30 things that I said in this video because I'm kind of loose with like the actual information because it's something I read like forever ago or I heard in passing or bro, that's the way people operate. We're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Your ego will survive. I guarantee you.
Factuality and elements of subjectivity. So the factuality would be something like this. Did you take a document? Did you put it in the garage? Was it found in your Corvette? The elements of subjectivity are things like this. Were you authorized to take it? Even if you were not authorized to take it, did you follow the procedures to return it? If you didn't follow those procedures, how culpable are you, let's say, for not doing that? Because
Trump's bases don't seem, yeah, and then they'll say we're the party of the blue line. Blue lives matter around here, brother. We follow the law. Yeah, until you don't, you fucking retards.
there are all
Jesus
kinds of
fuck.
people who break all kinds of laws, and they're given a pass because, as you mentioned with Biden, you said that his forgetfulness had to do with the documents. Wrong. It was very clear from the special counsel's report that his forgetfulness had to do with trial. We cannot take this guy to trial. He deserves to go to trial. He did break the law, but we don't think that he can withstand trial because basically his brain is fried.
Because he had no criminal intent.
And
So
so,
her never
hold
said
on,
anything like that, yeah.
Is that a fact or not?
No.
That's not a fact.
No, the forgetfulness had to do with the
No, it
crime. The elements of the crime is the willful retention of classified material. If you walk out of a skiff and you have something on you by accident, you might get fired. Depending on your job, you'll definitely get fired. But to charge you with a crime, you need intent. Now, for every single element that you described there, well, you'd have to take them and you'd have to know that you didn't follow the right procedure. An example for showing that subjective argument might be Donald Trump showing something to somebody saying, I should have declassified this, but I didn't. Don't look too closely. That would be an example of like a subjective thing where
that happened.
sounds
There's
like
a
he maybe
recording
didn't
of
have the
that.
authority to do that. Also,
Well-
the SAP level classified stuff he had from the Department of Energy, he could have never on his own declassified, and he didn't go through any proper procedures there. And I think one of the most telling things, this is subjective evaluation, one of the most telling things is that Donald Trump never denied the behavior. He never said he didn't do a thing. Instead, all the conservatives started to switch to psychic declassification as the reason why Trump could actually take
hold on.
anything he wanted out of the White House.
No. Look,
God damn.
you have the staccato style of mixing elements of truth with elements of pure garbage.
Wait, what was
Hold
the
on,
one
let
thing?
me-
Wait, what was the one thing I just said that was pure garbage? That
I'll
wasn't
tell you.
true.
So Biden started taking classified documents when he was in the Senate. Okay? No one even thinks that Biden was non-compos mentis then. So according to you, the special prosecutor didn't bring charges not because Biden is gone now, but because he was gone before. And I'm saying, was he gone in the 80s? Was Biden mentally gone in the 90s when he took those documents? Why not prosecute him for those? But quite clearly, the special counsel was not talking about Biden's mind in 1995. He was talking about Biden's mind today.
No, it doesn't have to do about being forgetful or
it
competence
has to
central.
do
It
with
has
the
to do
fact
did you
that you are
willingly
misstating
No, did
why
you
Biden
willingly
got off
take
the hook, pretending that it was an objective, fair-minded decision by a neutral guy, And I'm saying no. Now we turn to Trump.
Wait, why? For her, I'm just curious. Walk me through this. Why would you have a special prosecutor and then authorize him to release a report that's damning to Biden and report all of this stuff publicly if it was all politically partisan in the first place? Why not just lie about everything from the start? If they control the DOJ, the special prosecutor, and the FBI, why even report publicly that Biden had turned in documents?
Well,
He wasn't the president.
the scandal of Biden's documents became extremely embarrassing to the Mar-a-Lago case. And so there was an immediate need. Okay, we now have to cover for our guy to make it seem like the other guy is the only guy who did something wrong.
No, why
Hold
report
on,
it at all?
let me give you my theory, and then you tell me why it's wrong. So what does the DOJ do? They pick a guy in Delaware, nominally a Republican, but nevertheless he's under the thumb of the Biden DOJ. He's reporting to them. He has to ultimately survive.
Biden was probably one of the best presidents we ever had, and he did more to curtail the Israel conflict and help Ukraine than any other president probably did. Matter of fact, the only problem I have with Biden is he just didn't go far enough by putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. Well, they have security guarantees. We should have been there. That's the bottom line. Biden did a damn good job, and he did so good that he's probably the best president in my entire lifetime. He was probably the most progressive president we've ever had. He was so pro-union, pro-gay rights, pro-trans rights. Like, he tried to, like, literally end people's, like, like their schooling and make their schooling free. Like, Biden tried so hard, dude. And he did so much. And, like, the worst part is so many people on the left hate him. Like, the progressives don't even like him, which is insane. He literally made it to where you couldn't drill in so many different parts of the reef and save the ocean. And he, like, dude, he did so many fucking leftist things, and the leftoids fucking don't even like him. It's so crazy how when you give them what they want, they still complain. It's so wild. And there's a night and day difference right now between Biden and Trump with the way that Israel is handling and conducting themselves. Even like if you're a pro-Pally guy, you should really like the way Biden handled his shit there. But like, because now we have something that's way worse, and now there's no idea in the Middle East on what we're doing, and now Trump is just going to take it all over with Netanyahu and Jesus Christ.
There's scrutiny. Merrick Garland is still in charge. And so this guy conveniently comes out, Biden,
Merrick Garland was appointed by Trump.
he did some bad things, but you know what? He's a little forgetful. We can't really go ahead. Anyway, what you do is you get an official imprimatur. Biden's off the hook. All right, let's now proceed to get the guy we always set out to get.
Remember, common sense stuff, right? Common sense. So his argument right now is that the Bidens and the Biden administration and the radical left wanted to look like it was equal to the Trump administration. So it drummed up a fake document thing to throw at Biden. But Biden was in power. Biden had all of the authority to do whatever. We didn't even have the ability to go after Biden because the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that you can't hold a president accountable for their actions while they're a president. So everything he just said is now null and void because the Supreme Court has already voted against everything that matters what he said. But anyway, so he's saying the common sense argument here is that Biden, who had all the power and the radical media and the media establishment and all these things, had to drum up a fake story about Biden so they could go after Trump. That's his argument right now. That's the common sense argument from Dinesh right now. That, to him, that's Occam's razor. That, like, why would Biden do any of it? He could just lie. They could just throw the book at Trump and they don't have to do any of it. Like, they're an authoritarian dictator to them. Like, why did Biden have to do all this other bullshit? It didn't make Biden look good. It didn't make Biden look awesome that Jack Smith released a thing saying that Biden's kind of a fucking moron and mentally incompetent. Matter of fact, it probably hurt his chances to be president on a second term. It was probably as damning as the goddamn debate against Trump between Biden in 2024. Why the fuck would Biden do any of these things to actively hurt his chances at maintaining his power grab? If everything Dinesh is saying, Biden would have just swept it all under the rug because that's what authoritarian people do. There are no problems. Everything's okay. You're crazy. Because that's what Trump is doing right fucking now. So why the fuck did Biden do all that? He's saying as a common sense argument to say that, like, oh, they're the same. No, Biden would have just swept it all under the rug and never had any of this stuff. The investigations into his sons would have been dropped. Republicans wouldn't have been able to even try to impeach him or bring up the bullshit of Hunter Biden nonstop. All of this shit would have been dropped if Hunter Biden was a dictator like this man is suggesting. Biden let systems that exist happen. He ordered a special counsel, or Merrick Garland ordered a special counsel to look into Biden, to look into the document stuff, not for some crazy show, but because people made a claim, there was something to look into, they investigated the claim, and they found no criminal intent. Our system working as intended. It's just not the outcome you want. Jesus Christ.
Namely Trump. And what I'm saying is, you're supposed to be like a sophisticated political guy, but you can't see that there is a clear effort here. How do we clean up the crimes of our guy? Because we want to stick the classified document offense only.
If they have the control you're saying, they can just do that without the bullshit. Not everything is a Quentin Tarantino movie. They could just do the crazy control shit. What the fuck are you saying?
On the other guy, even though our guy did the same thing and arguably worse, certainly for a much longer period of time and much more carelessly, because the documents are sitting not only in his damn garage, but they're sitting at the Penn Biden Center where anybody can wander in and have a look at them. And not only that, if you look at all the reports that
Trump had fucking nuclear secrets, dog. That's a different level of incompetence, regardless.
Hunter Biden made to Burisma. I'm talking about.
Okay, wait, before we go into Burisma, so just to be clear, so I can understand. Well, no, because we started off in Burisma. You're saying that the same FBI that supposedly orchestrated January 6th, that worked as a deep state check on Trump's power, even when Trump was in office and was capable of doing all of these grand things, this Attorney General Merrick Garland, who was totally under the thumb of President Biden, despite the fact that he dragged his feet on all the prosecutions of Trump and waited way too long to appoint Jack Smith, and is one of the #1 center of complaints of every center-left Democrat. You're saying that that same institution's FBI was making it publicly known that they had found documents at Biden's house. Why, if they could suppress, if Merrick Garland could control a special prosecutor, which I don't know if you're aware of or not, the whole point of having a special prosecutor is that he's not directly under the thumb of the Attorney General. Otherwise, we would just call that a DOJ prosecutor, right? You're telling me they had so much power to cover this up that they were influencing this 300-page report that Herb puts out that has a lot of damning testimony, a lot of stuff that makes Biden look bad, but they couldn't just cover up the initial FBI claim?
All right, so notice how this debate has shifted from the factual.
Okay, wait, hold on. We're going to play this game. But let me just finish my point. Okay? Just to be, hold on. This is not you're doing the rhetoric thing. So everything I've stated thus far relating to Donald Trump's indictments was a pure fact. You are spinning me a tale.
It's a repetition of a charge. It's
of
not
an indictment.
Fact.
Yes, you're giving me conspiracy theory.
Of an indictment. Okay?
You're giving me conspiracy.
Now, let's come back. I'll answer your question. You're like, this FBI, how is it that they would have... The truth of it is simple. You have a case against Trump. Trump is now going to have 75 attorneys on his side that are going to be looking into who else had classified documents.
Why? That wouldn't happen when his case. That doesn't make sense.
That no one gives a fuck. That's not how courts work. If you are charged with a crime and they have an indictment and they bring you before a court, it's going to be things that are pertain to your case. You're not going to say in the court of law, go up to the judge and be like, Biden did it. That's not how that works. You argue the merits of your case and the claim. That's it. There's nothing else to add to that. If you did that, that would be a bad defense.
Makes sense.
That's one of the ways you defend, is you show that this crime has been widely indulged in by other people and was not seen to be a crime.
No, that's not how you defend against a crime. It doesn't work that way.
No.
If that was the case, no one in the United States would get a DUI or traffic ticket ever again. Because plenty of people drive drunk and speed, and they don't get traffic tickets. The reality is the facts of the Mar-a-Lago indictment are unique to Trump.
No.
They're unique to Trump.
You want to play attorney here? We can pursue the point.
Okay.
It is frequently the case that if somebody can show, in fact, this was part of my own campaign.
Don't you dare. You lost your court case. Okay, for future Republicans that are fucking monsters, that are jerking off to everything this absolute troglodyte says, do yourself one fucking favor, please, okay? Because I at least want to earn the victory of you getting your ass beat in court. Do not listen to this man about how to do a successful court case. He got his ass beat on his. He had to be pardoned by the president because he lost his case so fucking absurdly. So if you're going to listen to anything this dipshit says, hopefully it's none of it, but at least this part you need to cut out of whatever the fuck is going on in that crazy MAGA head of yours, you fucking ape.
Finance violation case where we basically said Dinesh gave $20,000 of his own money to a college friend who ran for office, and he was $20,000 over the limit. Part of my defense was no American in the entire country's history has ever been prosecuted on a first-time basis for giving that amount of money with no quid pro quo and no benefit to himself, and prosecuted as a felony with an attempt to put him away for years.
But if we're going to...
Why would you use your defense as a successful defense? You got destroyed in court, dude. Okay, let's do it. This is not going to look good for him.
And prosecuted as a felony with an attempt to put him away for years.
But
This
if we're
has
going
never
to,
been done.
if we're going to go with that, you
That
lost
is
that
the
case,
definition.
though. But you lost that case, so this is an example of that defense not working.
Okay,
They're
so,
delusional.
so in your fluid metric, if I lost the case, I must be guilty, just like if
Yes! Yeah, yes, you were found guilty in a court of law. Yes, that is how our system works. Again, they appeal to civility to destroy the system. He made an appeal earlier in this very debate saying that Donald Trump can't be guilty of these things because he wasn't found guilty of them. But now he was found guilty of them, and he's saying he can't be found guilty of them because he was pardoned for him. Despite the fact that Republicans also say a pardon is admitting of a crime. They have no fucking principles. These people aren't real. They are fucking brainwashed. They can't think. There's no critical analysis here. There is no Republican alive that watches this debate and goes, hell yeah, brother, he's doing good. If you're doing that, check into a hospital. You have a severe problem. I'm scared that you think the sky is purple, dude. What the fuck is happening?
OJ was acquitted, he must be innocent. But oh no, that wasn't the case. So
I'm just trying to talk about the
I'm just
facts
saying
of what
you
are
have
laid
a
out.
fluid, you have a fluid barometer.
It's not fluid. It's very
so
solid.
So according to you, because I quote lost the case, let me tell you why I quote lost the case. Here I am, an immigrant. I'm sitting in the offices of the Southern District of New York, and
A city that is very, very kind to immigrants. Yes, it has one of our largest Muslim populations and Indian populations in America. Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm looking at guys, and it's very clear from what they say that they're like,
The fact that he has these massive I'm looking at guys, looking at what they say. He's trying to build a defensive argument here, and he's trying to defend the undefensible. You're such a moron. You should have not brought this. You Donald Trumped yourself, man. You came out on the stage and ran on Epstein, and then someone's like, but aren't you on Epstein's island? And you're like, whoa! Stop. Why are you guys so bad at this, man? Holy shit.
like, if you don't plead to this case, we're going to charge you with bank fraud. I go, bank fraud? They go, yeah, because you took your money out of the bank. And they go, if you don't plead to this case, we'll charge you with mail fraud. I go, mail fraud? They go, yeah, because you put your check in the mail. These are the kind of people you're dealing with where they take what you did, they re-describe it 7 other ways, they then basically find a way to say to you, look, you want to take your chances with a Clinton appointee judge in a New York courtroom where you're facing years in prison? Or are you willing to plead guilty? Now, again, if you live in an imaginary America where you don't think that if they want to get a doctor, they charge them with illegally administering pain medicine, and if they don't want to get somebody, they find something on your tax return.
I wonder if he has that same mentality to Hunter Biden. I wonder if he believes that Hunter Biden committed fraud in Ukraine with Burisma or whatever. I wonder if he thinks these things, because Hunter Biden wasn't charged with any of those things. Hunter Biden was charged for lying on a gun form while also being a drug addict. That's it. So is either Hunter Biden not responsible for all of the lies and corruption and bullshit that you guys ran with for like 6 years, and the laptop from hell, like, or did he just lie on a drug form or a gun form? Either way, they pick and choose their argument for the particular moment. They believe nothing. They're the only one here that's fluid with definitions.
This is something that happens in this country, sadly, every single day. And it's
When you
kinda
say that-
hard-
when you
it's
say
hard-
something happens-
it's kind of hard for me to believe that I, a conservative, have to tell you this when the left at one time would have been
Good
nodding
point.
vigorously and saying,
Why did he conceal who was donating then, if it was making such a legal small denomination political contribution? Bro, because he knows he's lying. They're just lying. They're okay. They when they talk about law and Donald Trump, it's always the outer perimeter. No, wait. Fuck, dude. How do you say that? It's like the outer perimeter of like what they legally can do. But when they talk about Democrats, it's always what they ought to do. They apply two different lenses, and it's fucking annoying. And then they have the audacity to sit here and say, well, both sides do that. Shut the fuck up.
yeah.
Okay, the left is not in the room with us right now. Okay, so just focusing. I mean, like, if you want, we can go through the details of your case. I don't know if you want to do that. I don't think we have to do that right now. But if you're saying, I'm just curious. You said that this is a thing that happens all the time in the United States. This type of lawfare. So then, did it also happen under the 4 years of Trump, and it's happening now under Trump too?
Is what happening? Campaign finance?
Is he abusing the legal system to go after political opponents that everyone else has done?
It remains to be seen, in my opinion.
my
Look,
Wait, so real quick, when Donald Trump puts out a Truth Social saying, Pam Bondi, my attorney general,
Okay.
I want you to go after these three people. I think it was Bolton, Letitia James, and Comey. And I want you to use this prosecutor.
Yeah.
Illegitimately, she was appointed, and that's why her case are tossed. And Pam Bondi files indictments against two of those people with that prosecutor. You're saying that this type of behavior is just part and parcel of being the president or attorney general of the U.S.?
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay, so this is an exceptional behavior that Trump has done that no one else in U.S. history has done before,
Let me
right?
say what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this: you take a guy and try to put him away for life, and fail. That guy is going to be a little pissed.
So you would say that
Hold
Donald
on,
Trump is
hold
engaging
on,
in immoral behavior,
hold
but he's
on,
doing
stop
it as an
jumping in.
emotional
Let me-
response.
I'm trying to be honest with you guys, and you're jumping in as if you're trying to score like debating points.
I'm not trying to score debate anymore. I'm trying to say
Hold on,
factual.
Let me say what I'm saying. Let me say what I'm saying.
The president was mad. Go ahead.
Try to put yourself in a try to have a little imaginative identification with the people
my
we're talking
God.
about, right? So here you have Letitia James making to Trump's way of thinking anyway, utterly
Guys, he has to rehook up to X, okay? Elon has to give him the MAGA update in the back of his brain because he's kind of shutting the fuck down right now. This motherfucker is an NPC. Guys, Donald Trump was persecuted wrongfully by the left, and he's mad about it, so he's going to persecute them back. Is that really the defense you're going to go with? Remember when I said earlier that understanding someone's perspective is not justification for it. So I assume this man is going to give a justification for Donald Trump's actions, which if he's going to justify Donald Trump being immoral and a monster, maybe his understanding of those racist Southerners that he was trying to defend originally is more of like a justification for their actions rather than understanding of them. Huh, I like how it all loops back together. That's crazy.
fraudulent case in which the bankers came in and said we were not defrauded. We did our own evaluations. We made tons of money on this deal. So you have fraud without a victim. And then Letitia James as well. New York was the victim. Okay. And then evidence comes to light. By the way, not discovered by Trump. reported on in the public media that Letitia James, and by the way, there are other people doing this too, tries to take advantage of getting mortgage rate benefits by claiming multiple primary residences. Are you saying for a fact she didn't do that?
Correct. All of that has been tossed.
You're
yes.
saying that Letitia James...
Her and the chair of the Federal Board of Reserves or whatever, where they try to use this weird mortgage claim because it's apparently the only crimes that Donald Trump is familiar with that don't involve classified documents. Yeah, they fabricated these charges. That's why they were tossed. For these two people, it came out they weren't true. There was a mismarking on a mortgage form, I think, at the bank about it.
Okay.
But if you look at the actual rate she qualified for, if you look at the actual underlying documentation, it was pretty obvious she wasn't applying for secondary or tertiary residences as also principal residences for the purposes of obtaining a low interest rate mortgage. It was all bullshit, yes.
Do you think that he doesn't read these? I didn't know any of this. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I knew all this shit. Okay. I would have thrown that bitch under the bus. I would have sacrificed her to the gods. But like, yo, Destiny read all that. Bro, people cannot come at Destiny like you come at a majority of people. Okay. I have unplugged from a lot of the politics because, bro, it's soul crushing, dude. Like, Donald Trump is going to pardon himself when he leaves. None of it means anything. We're all just wasting our time. But at least we're just documenting the vibes. You know what I'm saying? But, like, thank fuck someone find... Like, could you imagine if he said that to Hassan? We'd be sitting here going, like, well, yeah, but, like, the West and, like, colonial... And, like, he would find, like, he would find some bullshit. Like, but no. Destiny dove into it because he knew the facts of the case. Fuck yes.
I don't agree with that at all.
What was I factually wrong about there?
Hold on. And
There is no disagreement factually. Okay.
well, there is a disagreement factually, and we can look at the facts of that case if you want. But the point I'm trying to make is this:
I want to talk about that
if
one.
somebody who's trying to get you on real estate fraud is themselves engaging in real estate fraud, there's a certain delicious irony in exposing that in retaliation. It's not that you're framing her for doing something she didn't do. Let's for a moment grant that she did it. Are you saying that because
Why?
it's Trump?
You don't do that. That's our job to grant that. Your job is to grant our side of the argument. That's how debates are supposed to work. It's not on you to grant your side. That's up to us. Why don't you grant our side and then just be like, oh, then you have to contend with the fact that Donald Trump is a monster. What the fuck is happening?
He doesn't have any right to bring charges against her, even if they're true. And moreover, let's say that they bring the charges back and she's found guilty. Will you change your opinion?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would change my
You
opinion
would?
and follow. Yeah, of course. But
Just
like,
because they found her guilty, let's just say they took
Well, I
her
would-
to-
Yes, if it went through the court system and the court has gone over all the available evidence and they've come with a non-guilty verdict or a guilty verdict, it means that they're guilty. It's the way our system of governance works. It's part of our laws. You know, those things that you are supposed to care about as a rule of law guy. If the courts say that this person is innocent, then they're innocent. By definition.
you would look at
court-
the underlying facts, but I would say, and this is where I'll grant to you, I'm definitely sympathetic of the president having these feelings. Maybe, and you can, I don't know, maybe we'll meet in the middle here. Maybe it would be good if we had a independent attorney general who wasn't taking direct orders from the president, especially if we're saying he might be a vindictive man-child, and that person
Jesus.
should have the luxury of operating independently like in every other presidential administration past, instead of taking direct orders from the president who might, as you've just laid out an excuse for, engage in vindictive prosecutions of political opponents.
We
Yes.
now know from the Biden years
Oh my
that
God.
all the cases, including the state cases, were being filtered through not the Attorney General's office, but the Biden White House. Why
That's
do you
not
think?
true.
Hold on. Well, it's not true.
It's not true.
I mean, stating it doesn't make it so.
And
you know?
I know, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying to you. Where's your evidence for any of it? Where's
Okay.
the evidence that her was
All right.
influenced by Garland? Where's your
Okay.
evidence that her was
right,
influenced
let me
by
ask you
Biden?
this.
Where's the evidence of Biden giving direction to
Okay.
Merrick Garland? Where's the evidence of NARA or the FBI behaving improperly with regards to the Mar-a-Lago case?
Okay.
Where's the evidence that Jack Smith was told by anybody to do his investigation what he did? There's no evidence of any of this stuff.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
They say stuff and that's it. They have nothing. Ever.
How many times did either Fannie Willis or her lover show up in Washington, D.C. and meet with the Biden administration? How many times?
Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean it's
Doesn't
filtered through the
matter.
White House.
Okay.
The president isn't allowed to talk to anybody now, or else it counts as improper
Oh, so you're saying
behavior?
it's perfectly fine for them to go to the White House and have a conversation, but you know what? They were talking about a bunch of other stuff unrelated to these prosecutions.
Like when Donald Trump
All right.
calls Putin for
Hold
2
on,
hours
hold
after
on.
kicking out every world leader from the
Let me ask
Oval
you this.
Office? The president's allowed to have conversations with people. If something improper is happening, I would want to know about it, but you would hope that people are reporting on it or that people have some kind of evidence of it, like we do for all of the improper conversations that Trump has, like when Giuliani made a phone call to Zelensky's aide, or when Trump made a phone call to Zelensky to threaten to withhold aid, or like when Trump made the phone call to Raffensperger to try to rig the election in Georgia, or like when
That's
for any
all.
of the other...
This is all bullshit upon.
It's all facts. You can look it all up. There were indictments. Rudy Giuliani got fucking charged. He lost his law license, bro. What? Half this country is delusional. Just remember that. Every time they say something insane, just remember, oh, they don't have a fucking brain. They're MAGA. Okay, yeah, there we go.
On bullshit.
Wait, those calls are recorded.
sure
We've
is.
listened to them. We can hear the phone calls.
Okay, so let's start with the Raffensperger.
What do you have?
call.
Why don't we go to the Mar-a-Lago stuff? Let's just figure that out.
We are, but what we're doing with Mar-a-Lago is we're trying to.
Did Donald Trump take classified information from the White House?
Yes.
He wasn't supposed to have it at Mar-a-Lago.
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe? Was it Mar-a-Lago a skiff? Is that a secured classified?
It doesn't matter. The issue
It
is not
does.
that. The issue
Wait, that
is
is the issue. You
You
cannot-
just said intentionality, and I'm
Sure, wait,
saying
I'm not. We haven't gotten the intentionality yet. Are you allowed to have classified material knowingly outside of a secured classified area?
you might under.
There's no way a MAGA guy is liking this debate. There's no way. There's no way. What the fuck?
To certain circumstances, yes.
If you want, there are like 10 different statements I can make that Donald Trump himself issued in 2016 about the importance of classified documentation. In fact, Jack Smith quotes all of them, including the
I read
executive
those.
order. Okay, then you
Let
know
me
how
ask you
embarrassing
this.
it is. Well,
Do
no,
you
so I'm
know-
curious. Donald Trump did all the prerequisites needed to break the law. He held the documents where they weren't supposed to be held. He knew they were classified. He said it to multiple people that he was showing them to. And then he told his employees to obstruct investigators when they're trying to find it. This is a crime, assuming it's all true. There should be the easiest, like, yeah, of course,
It
that
would-
would be, if that was true, it would be a crime.
It
was
is a little bit of a difficult question when a president takes his own documents from his own.
You can just say it's a crime, dog. You can just own that. You don't have to run total defense. You can pull Donald Trump's micro dick out of your lips and say, sorry, daddy did it bad. You could just say that. You can own that. Be an honest fucking person with principles.
Administration, an email or a comment that he sent to Kim Jong-un. Is that unauthorized?
Why was there a special?
Arguably?
Why was there a special prosecutor for Biden then? Why was her appointed if a president could just do it? Shouldn't Biden have just said, "Oh no, I'm allowed to do that"?
The issue is not whether they did it, because if doing it by itself is illegal, Biden should be in prison right now.
No, it's doing it knowing that you're retaining it outside of a classified
Exactly.
area. But I'm curious, if you're saying it's not a crime, why was there a special prosecutor for Biden?
Okay, and you cut me off earlier, but I was showing why Biden, I think, took a lot of those documents.
Why
In
was there a
fact,
special prosecutor for Biden if it wasn't a crime?
The special prosecutor was there to investigate the degree of the offense and whether or not charges should be brought.
But you just said it wasn't a crime. If it's a
I didn't
president,
say it wasn't a crime. I said that it depends on the situation. I said that in a case like this is like a CEO who walks out of a company, takes a bunch of documents with him. His documents that he wrote. Now, hold on. There's a difference, but
The CEOs can't do that, actually. You fucking moron.
because we're talking about classified documents. But
Like, even
nothing-
CEOs can have non-competes.
Nothing
I
you're doing
mean-
is showing me that Trump's conduct here was distinctive in any way.
okay, can you give me a single example in all of U.S. history of any other president saying to somebody, "Here's a document. I should have declassified it, but I didn't. Don't look too closely."
Okay. Are you saying that if the president said that
He did.
is by itself evidence that he is guilty?
No, but it's part of the indictment.
Okay, so what I'm saying is it's part of the indictment. I read it, you read it, big deal. The point is
It is a big deal, though.
No,
Donald Trump said
I'm
it was a
saying
big deal like 15 times when he's talking about other people retaining classified information. Remember how big of a deal you guys made about it when you talked about Hillary's emails for like 3 years?
yeah, and she was never charged.
Because
Why
she
was
wasn't guilty of retention willfully, of knowingly doing
and you
it.
know that.
That's what
How
the
do you know that?
investigator said, because Comey said it.
Because Comey said it, right. Okay. So here's what
I'm
we're
sorry, do you
getting
have
at.
evidence?
So, Dinesh is making the flat earth argument, okay? And there is a sliver of truth in it, okay? I had to have this conversation before, and I didn't like it. Because I don't want to defend flat earthers, and I never will. The earth is fucking round. But when we talk about the earth being round, Dinesh is hitting at like this perimeter idea, is that I have no way of verifying the earth is round. I can look to pictures, but we have no way to know that those are true. The only way to know something for 100% certainty is that you see it with your own eyes, which is something that, as an atheist, I believe. But I believe in science, and I believe in information, and I believe in consensus. So when 99.99% of the world comes out and says the earth is round, I'm going to be inclined to believe them because we have experts and scientists that look into these things. I don't have the means to take care of it myself. To some extent, I have to trust a third party because I don't own a rocket and I don't have thousands of millions of dollars to go into space. So I can't 100% verify. So what Dinesh is doing is he's appealing to that little tiny kernel of truth that people cannot verify all of these claims. So there's a small chance that they could be wrong. And he's not entirely wrong there, but he's not right either because we have evidence, we have intent, we have circumstantial evidence that points to these things as to being facts. Our job is to trust a majority of the time the experts. 90% of people that get into a car today do not know how a car operates. We trust car manufacturers to build a car, and when we turn the key, the car works. We hope that the people governing our country or our rules or our society have the prerequisite knowledge to do so. We trust in the system. We hope that the water pumping through our pipes are not lead or they're not poisoning us. We're hoping that the denim or the stuff in our jeans that we're wearing aren't poisonous. We trust third parties all the time. All you have to do is admit that, no, I can't 100% verify that this is absolute 100% fact, but is the closest understanding to the word fact that I could possibly give with my level of knowledge on the information. People don't like to admit that because they like to say fact as if it's like 100% written in stone. But again, this is how flat earthers congregate. They believe in that minor, like, oh, well, they don't know. How could they know? They're just trusting someone to tell them. And when you stand on some pedestal and act like you know everything when you haven't done the work to know it, makes people like not want to give a fuck about your opinion. Just admit that you aren't someone who has all of the answers and information. You don't know. But the consensus is this, and the consensus is this way for a particular reason. It's not that hard to fucking do.
Evidence to the contrary.
So
wait, do you have evidence to the contrary of that?
Ultimately, we are now
No
we're
evidence. Okay.
trapped in an appeal to authority.
It's
according
an
to
appeal
you,
to authority.
Comey, Merrick Garland, Biden, unimpeachable sources. Whatever they say should be taken as
No,
gospel.
they are impeachable, but you should have
Jax-
evidence to impeach them. If you don't agree with what
True.
they say, then you should say, this is why I disagree.
Right, so
Not
what
with
I'm
a
saying
not
is-
with a crazy tale you spin, but like, here's
So,
some contrary evidence. From Mar-a-Lago, we see the pictures of the documents on the stage. We see the
True.
pictures of the documents in the bathroom. We see the pictures of the boxes spilled out with the classified markings on
Have you
the
seen
tops
the
of
Biden
papers.
pictures?
I don't know if those were released or not. But the
Really?
contention with the Biden
Okay.
pictures wasn't that
The
there was
Biden
classified
pictures
material.
have been widely
The contention
released. You're supposed to be a factual researcher, but clearly
I'm a
your
factual.
eye,
I am a
clearly
factual
your
research.
eye only
There-
focuses
hold on.
rightward.
We saw the pictures because that was part of a federal indictment for a crime against Trump. Biden and Pence weren't accused of crimes because they made the phone call to the FBI.
Yep.
They made the phone call to NARA to say, hey, we think we have stuff here. You should come and grab it. Do you see the difference between behavior?
The difference between behavior now goes to a separate issue, which is how they reacted to NARA.
Yes, that's the intent part, you fucking troglodyte. The thing we've been talking about this whole time. Yeah, they try to cast doubt on experts when it doesn't fit their ideology.
Okay.
Yes,
Exactly.
one showed criminal intent and the other didn't.
And
Yes.
the context.
And the best way you can always check this is like for like the longest time, Hollywood actors would come out and typically defend the left or say something in line with the left. And Fox and all of their fucking dipshits would come out and be like, we don't give a fuck about what these celebrities say, these dumb motherfuckers that don't even work real jobs. You're like, okay, I can get behind that. Fuck celebrities. But then, like, when Kid Rock comes out and says something, or Joe Rogan, or some B-cast celebrity like Kevin fucking Sorbo, dumbass fucking Hercules comes out in defense of fucking something, they blast it. Like, Kevin Sorbo just said this. It's like, didn't you just say you don't give a fuck about celebrities talking? Oh, you do. You just don't. You only like the ones that say the stuff you like. Is that what it is? They do that same shit with experts, with laws. They do that same shit with the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights. They'll defend the Second Amendment, but they'll shit all over the First until they need to win an election, and they'll come out and be like, we're the first, we defend the First Amendment, guys. And then now they're in office, and they're like, hey, man, maybe we should curtail you talking bad about Trump. How about we hit you with a lawsuit? Taylor Swift supporting the Democrats made zero difference. Well, this election cycle, yes, but typically Taylor Swift supporting Democrats does very well. But this election cycle, Israel-Palestine was just so powerful. And say what you will, I don't think America is really ready for a female president, especially a female half black president, half Indian, and whatever, and then half white or whatever. They just weren't fucking ready for that shit, bro. And on top of that, prices were going up, and people are fucking stupid and didn't realize their terrible things that they did during the COVID pandemic, you know, like being unemployed for a year and a half and refusing to go back to work, had a negative impact on our economy.
So this is really important because we now know there's extensive communications between NARA and the Biden DOJ about how to bring charges over this on Trump. That correspondence has been released. So we actually know that the NARA people, who are supposed to be these archives, neutral guys, librarians, no, they were very much part of a scheme for how do we go and get Trump.
I can get this
So
done in one question that you're not going to answer again. If that was the case, why didn't they just file charges on him day one? Why did NARA give him 8 months to return documents?
Why did what?
Why did NARA give him 8 months to return documents before the FBI finally got the charges basically ready for him to show up to take him because he wasn't returning anything? Why did they give him 8 months to return it?
Right, and I think the reason is simple, and that is when you're dealing with a massive sheaf of documents, a process of negotiation. It's fairly familiar, by the way. Other people have done it.
You said this wasn't a process of negotiation. You said this was them talking to the FBI, which they had to because they were like, well, there's a lot of stuff here that we're not getting, and the FBI, NARA doesn't have the authority to go to the president's house and retrieve stuff. That would be part of the FBI. That's why they had the communication. But if their goal, you said that they were talking the whole time like they wanted to fabricate a case, why didn't they just do it on day one? Why did they wait so long?
Well, that's because the normal gap in a communication to bringing charges is about 8 months. That's not unusual at all. If NARA was talking to the Biden DOJ and going, listen, we need to get Trump. He hasn't returned the documents. Here's a great pretext. Go get him.
A pretext being that he committed a crime?
No, that's
not what pretextual means.
No, a pretext means that we are engaged in this dialogue with the Trump administration. This can now be recast as Trump refusing to return documents.
Because he did refuse. They stopped communicating. That's why when the FBI went to the Mar-a-Lago place, they found more documents. Some of those we still have never gotten back because Trump flew like 12 boxes of stuff up to his home in Bedminster or whatever.
Okay, look, I
we
think
can just say it's bad. If it's true, it's bad.
We can keep going on this, but I think look, let me put it this way. I think you're a little pissed off that your cases didn't work. Right? You were really hoping that you could get Trump, prevent him from running in 24, put the guy away, and win the 2024 election.
Oh my God. What a pivot, dude. That was like the best pivot I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was so blatant that there's no way I need to go watch the Christopher Hitchens debate again to see if it was this bad.
And unfortunately, he was big enough, strong enough, had enough resources, had really good lawyers. He beat you every single time, up and down.
So half his lawyers that he had initially are disbarred now, so I don't know if you can call them lawyers anymore.
You're basically trying to relitigate in front of this poor bunch of guys and go, you know what? If only I, Steve Barnell, had been litigating this, we'd really have gotten him. But damn it, we had incompetent counsel. It all blew up in our face.
Well, if anybody would know anything about relitigation, it would be the conservatives that constantly relitigate.
Yeah, I don't. Dinesh is like getting so fucking absolutely blown out here. This is crazy.
2020
Okay,
that
look.
still don't do you acknowledge that, for instance, Trump lost the 2020 election?
No, he didn't lose.
Okay, so we're talking about relitigation.
Okay.
Right? I mean, like, you guys don't even accept the outcome of the 2020 election.
Okay,
We're
hold
supposed to
on,
be
hold
a beacon on a
Hold
hill
on.
of democracy.
Hold on. Well, okay, so we need to probably say a word about 2020 because apparently, just like in the opening books of the Republic, where Socrates has to say, "Laughter is that an argument?" We're getting the sort of knowing ha 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 ha, which needs to be confronted because of its sort of sheer sneering dogmatism,
Now he's gonna make an appeal to civility. Like,
wedded to a bit of ignorance. So let me ask you this: and did you see my film 2,000 Mules?
I watched the whole thing. Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you dispute the accuracy of cell phone geo-tracking?
No.
If you,
hell yeah, Stuart! This motherfucker got his ass beat, and then he's throwing a tantrum trying to move to another topic. It's so, and this is not going to be good. This is what he calls himself an expert on, by the way. So let's see how much of an expert he is.
you were to be convinced that in the 2020 election, in the weeks leading up to it, and then again in the period leading up to the recall election in early Jan, that there were a number of individuals, mules, carrying ballots and going to 10 or more drop boxes. And this could be demonstrated by cell phone geo-tracking. Would you agree that this is something that needs to be looked into?
Sure.
No.
And you did and found nothing.
No. Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
Well, okay, that's not accurate to say. You found two people that you accused of engaged in mulership. Both of those people, I think, sued you or the production company, and then that's why the film was no longer for distribution or whatever, because those two
Wow.
people were both engaged in
Okay.
fair. One guy, I think, was a father dropping off ballots for his family, and I think the other was a nurse who was dropping off ballots for the nursing home that he worked at. Both of those stories were verified to be true. I agree, 2,000 Meals was an interesting hypothesis, but it was missing the part two where you actually follow through on the investigation and find the people engaged in muling for ballots. Simply
Okay.
saying that people drove by ballot
No, hold
boxes
on.
and not
Okay,
enough to
hold
prove
on.
a crime.
God damn it, dude. This is why Republicans won't debate destiny. They just won't do it. This guy knows more about your fucking film and the court cases that followed it than you do. And it's your film.
Well, first of all, okay, the nurse that you're talking about, I've never heard of. I don't even know what you're talking about. That's fully made up. That's out of your ass.
You're the guy losing it?
basically.
Fuck.
There is a case where we have in Georgia by one guy who claims, who by the way is seen in the film dropping off multiple ballots. The guy says that this was legit, and he was dropping off ballots for his family, which is allowed. This case is being litigated because the facts of it are rather complex, and I won't go into it right here. Also, partly because it's being disputed. But let
When
me
you say
this.
litigated, in a civil manner or a criminal
Hold on.
manner?
But the guy,
Well, can you
by
say
the way,
just can you expand on that? Is it in a civil manner or in a criminal manner?
Civil.
no, it's a lawsuit. It's a civil lawsuit.
Okay, so when you say civil lawsuit, who's suing who for what?
So the alleged mule is suing me and
Okay.
suing the company, claiming that he individually, he's not saying the cell phone geo-tracking is invalid. He's not saying anything shown in the movie is false. He's simply saying what you showed me doing in the film is lawful. And in the film,
Yes, it is lawful for a person to visit multiple drop boxes because drop boxes are in multiple locations, from libraries to city hall to like certain, depending on the size of the town, there's like certain areas, schools, like a person can visit multiple of these places in a day. Sometimes they're even right next to each other. In fact, I could see a school behind us and City Hall is like a block that way. My cell phone would ping at all of these locations multiple times a day. That doesn't mean I'm committing voter fraud. You haven't shown any evidence of that. I am too close to these things, and small communities might only have one or two places. But yes, there are multiple places to drop off ballots. And sometimes you might take more than one trip to a ballot. Depending on a home, there could be grandparents in the house, there could be a wife, there could be kids that are over the age of 18, especially in an economy where multiple people have to pitch in to keep a house and roof over people's heads. Yes, things cost money. Sometimes people group together. And sometimes if you're going out and someone's like, hey, take my ballot. While you go to the market, hey man, you heading out? Take my ballot. I don't fucking feel like leaving the house. How is it? Occam's razor, dude. Didn't you appeal to fucking common sense earlier, bro? What the fuck?
Film, we show a guy pulling up, jumping out, dropping these ballots, and he's claiming.
Yeah, dude, I forgot about that. Elon Musk committed a fraud when he said, if you voted Trump, I'd pay you $1 million. And then he had to like retract his statement and said, if you vote, but come to this MAGA event to do your like vote stuff, and you could win $1 million. Yeah. And then he also just gave him like, what was it, $162 million to Trump?
That individual act was lawful. So that's what's being litigated.
Okay, which is
Nothing's
important. That's the whole
It's
point,
important,
right?
and
And it could be illegal activity, right?
It could be illegal or it could be legal. That's what's being, this is being fought over. But what I'm getting at is no one is disputing the footage in the film. Some of it, you said, there was electronic surveillance. Do you realize that the people who said that this was the most secure election in history never looked at any surveillance in any state? Do you realize that many states which had surveillance turned off their videos before the election so they wouldn't have that surveillance?
That's really strange then. I feel like Sidney Powell and the Trump admin should have probably chose some of their claims on places that didn't have surveillance, because the ones that they did, they intentionally obfuscated the surveillance cameras in order to lie about what they were showing. Like, for instance, the ballot boxes underneath the table.
Look, why don't we just stay with what... there's a reason.
Okay, well, we can stay with your case. In your
the
case, it's
reason
been
I made
4
a film
years.
that
Nothing has
focused-
been resolved about this.
I
It's a
didn't-
case about defamation. It sounds like that's what
I'm
it
saying
is.
in the
It's
film
not a criminal case at all.
In the film I made, we didn't talk about boxes under the desk, okay?
No, but you made a mass appeal to all of these locations. Are you saying that there was no camera footage for the ones that you were at? And if so, then how do you have camera footage? You made a mass appeal to multiple locations, which gave us ample criticism to say something like, well, then if that's the case, why didn't Sidney Powell use like the story of places that they didn't have video footage? Why did they use video footage from places that they had to doctor to show some kind of ill intent? Why was that required? You're making a bold claim that none of these places have video cameras, and there's a good chance that a lot of that's true. A lot of smaller towns are going to have cameras over their ballot boxes, and their ballot boxes might be like in City Hall or places like that, whatever, but like some of them aren't going to have fucking security cameras. That doesn't mean theft is happening. What the fuck? Oh my God, dude, they're so stupid.
We relied on two types of evidence, both of which, on the face of it, are valid. First, cell phone geo-tracking, and we showed that there were...
Cell phone geo-tracking doesn't say anything. It just says they were at this location. That's it. Again, ballot boxes can be in multiple places.
In Georgia alone, in Fulton County, in that area, 242 mules, alleged mules, who went to 10 or more drop boxes.
242 alleged mules. In Georgia? Hold on, let's do this. How many people live in Georgia? 11.18 million people. So 11.18 million, and it's safe to assume that only half of those people voted. So we're talking about 5 million people voting in this state, okay? And you said 200 what? So that's like a size of 0.00 like 1%. So even if your claim is true, that wouldn't be enough to offset an election. So I mean, what are we talking about here?
In the period of the election. Those same people, by the way, did not go to those drop boxes any other time because this was compared against a geo-tracking of an earlier date.
To be clear, real quick, when you say went to those drop boxes, all you have are those people passed by those drop boxes.
No,
that's
no.
it. You don't know what they did there. You have no footage of them dropping anything off. You don't know who these people.
Wrong, and wrong again.
Wait, you have footage of those people dropping ballots off at. Also, notice for the one guy that's suing you or your company or whatever, notice that you're talking about footage of him dropping ballots off at a single box. That's not even the claim. 2,000 mules is not 2,000 homing missiles to one box. It's supposed to be people dropping them off at multiple boxes. I didn't see footage of any of that. of a single person, and that would have been the strongest thing. If you could show one person one time visiting multiple ballot boxes, that'd be like, oh, that's pretty crazy. I didn't see a single example of that. Do you
Well,
have a single example of that?
Yeah, I do.
Why didn't you
But
show it?
Why isn't it in your film?
It actually is shown in the movie. It is shown in the movie. What you really have is you see the same guy in 2 different outfits at the same box, but on 2 different occasions, dropping in multiple ballots.
Why would you use geo-tracking data to see a guy going through multiple ballot boxes and only look at his behavior on one ballot box when the central claim was the meal was going to multiple ballot boxes?
I'll tell you why.
Bro.
It's like this. It's like you have a serial killer who goes to 5 different homes.
Holy
And you
fuck.
find 5 dead bodies in those homes.
I'm gonna die.
His
I
cell
can't.
phone places him at those homes at those exact times.
Guys, 3 hours is going to be my tops. I don't think I'm finishing this bitch. There's still an hour and a half left, and we got 30 minutes.
Of those 5 murders. However, only one of those homes has surveillance. And in that one case, you can look at the cell phone data. You can see when he entered the home. You can then compare it against the surveillance video, but you only have one video. Now, in the 2020 election, even in the places that had surveillance, they had surveillance in approximately 1 out of 10 or fewer drop boxes. So the truth of it is, you could have a cell phone moving from Dropbox to Dropbox, but only one of those drop boxes has surveillance.
I think I would say the analogy
this
is
was all
very
described. The analogy. This is all.
The analogy is telling because you're saying there's 5 murders, but you don't even have any proof of malfeasance happening at any of these ballot boxes. Also, when you say there's not surveillance on them, you keep saying that like that's exceptional. Surveillance wouldn't even really tell you anything, right? A guy could show up in a hooded mask with everything covered, and there's nothing illegal about that, and drop a ballot off, and you would know nothing about this person. How would surveillance even help in this case?
Well, it would help to establish that the cell phone. Because the problem with the cell phone is my cell phone is moving from box to box to box. If I gave my cell phone to my wife, then she could be going from box to box, but it would be with my cell phone. The advantage of the surveillance, it can establish who is the guy who is showing up at the box. Now,
That
look,
doesn't mean
here's
anything.
the problem, okay? When you do cell phone geo-tracking, you get a cell phone ID. But the cell phone ID is not the phone number. And we have no ability, and neither do you, to take a cell phone ID and identify the person associated with that cell phone. The only people who can do that is law enforcement.
Good. Yes. Only law enforcement should be able to do that. Yes, sir. And it should only be done under extreme duress. We have some level of privacy in this country, and that's okay.
And so we asked Democratic officials in Georgia, in Arizona, in Milwaukee, in Philadelphia, in Detroit, to look into this. Not surprised.
Have yourself a good time, Stuart. Much love and Happy New Year, man.
Surprisingly, the Democrats were like, nah, we're not really interested in doing that.
Ironically, neither would the right-wing people be wanting to do that. This guy is a fucking moron. In order to go to these law enforcement agencies, you have to prove something. Again, you would need something as credible as to the level of an indictment for them to want to release that information. And for good cause. We shouldn't give out personal information from our citizens on just a mere request.
This, we're like, just talk to the mules. Maybe there is a very plausible explanation. This guy just happens to take a really long walk around election time. He likes to stop at drop boxes. He smokes a cigarette at each drop box, and that explains why he's pausing at these drop boxes. So
Or maybe he's on the street akin to it and he's at a red light because he's at a busy intersection and he's sitting there for a minute or two and then he drives off again. Maybe that's like, you know, Occam's razor, the most like reasonable solution is probably the most likely. Like, come on, man. Common sense, guys, by the way.
So maybe there is an explanation. We'd like to know what it is. The movie can take you as far as the film can go, but to now demand, why didn't you do the investigation? We're not able to do that, and we said so in the film. So what I'm getting at is...
Right, so you weren't able to prove any of the claims that you were making. You just asked a lot of questions, no different than Nick Fuentes and his Nazi bullshit. You just ask questions with no proof, no evidence, and then when people come to you with proof and evidence, you say fake news, and then you laugh about it because, oh my God, they took us serious.
This is not a case where there's nothing here. There is a lot here.
There's literally, how could you even get that information?
Well, the answer is the cell phone date. You just take the cell phone data. You have a list of 2,000 or more cell phone IDs. You just get the actual phone numbers of everybody. You go visit.
No, I'm asking, how would you get the phone numbers? How would you translate this from ID to phone number to person?
That can be done very easily. That's done in every burglary and murder case in the country right now.
The burglaries have something called probable cause of a crime being committed. There's no world where law enforcement could start pulling phone numbers and data from phones off of a wild hunch where no other information is shown. Probable cause meaning that it's likely that a crime has been committed here. There's no world where a judge should be signing off on warrants or subpoenas pulling information like that.
Okay, so this is a good question. You're saying that if the prosecutor, let's just say in Fulton County, were to go to a judge and say, we have identified in Fulton County 242 individuals who in the period leading up to the 2020 election or the recall election have been identified as going directly to 10 or more drop boxes. By the way a cell phone moves is it doesn't move in a fluid pattern. It moves and stops and moves again and stops. You can actually tell when the phone paused. So we're talking about people who are stopping at the drop box. And if you go to a judge and say, we need a warrant to be able to identify these people and merely verify from them that their behavior was lawful. According to you, that warrant would be impossible to obtain because there's no probable cause. Knowing something about the law myself, I would say that warrant would be extremely easy to obtain.
What you've described isn't even an illegal activity.
The election fraud is illegal. The question
No,
is,
you don't have any evidence of election fraud. You have evidence of people walking near drop boxes,
right,
which also are near post offices, which could be people mailing any number of things, right?
Let me pose a case to you.
Oh, God.
These 4 kids in Idaho are found dead. And this guy, Koberger, you see his cell phone in the vicinity of the houses, and he makes a big circle around the house, and that's the geo-tracking. He was there at the time.
Someone is dead, asshole! That's probable cause! A prerequisite has been met. Yes, something needs to be investigated now. But when you make a claim of theft and all you have is people were at places, that's not a crime!
Or around the time that crime was committed. Are you saying that a single judge would go, we don't even have any evidence he did it?
No, I think you would have. I think that would be good for probable cause that a crime was committed because we have 4 dead bodies. It's likely a crime committed there.
That's right.
We have no evidence of voter fraud from any of these mailing boxes, so there is no probable cause to speak of. Again, you don't even have evidence of a crime.
Right, but when an investigation is underway, judges are very
Remember, guys, he knows something of law himself.
willing to give law enforcement the tools to discover if a crime has been committed. I'll give you my own case.
Oh,
a very good
do
example.
It. Don't give us your own case, bro. Like, make it harder for us to mock you, please.
So, in my own case, somebody tipped off the FBI that I made this contribution.
Yes, someone told the FBI that you made an illegal contribution over the limit. So they authorized an investigation into you because someone alleged a crime. And then they found evidence of that. And then you went to court over it. And then you were found guilty of it. And then you were pardoned by Donald Trump, you dick suck.
The contribution could have been legal.
No, it couldn't have been, right?
Why? Why not?
Because it exceeded the federal election commission's.
There are actually legal ways to make a contribution. How do you think Soros?
Then why didn't you do that? Yeah, you can give to a super PAC. That's not what you did. You gave directly to an individual. You fucking troglodyte. I don't get how you guys can fail so much and then call it a success. Holy fuck, dude. At this point, I'm going to start signing up to have bankruptcies. Maybe I can be fucking president, dude.
Gives millions
Sorry, no, I forgot. You have to fucking diddle kids. Shit.
of dollars. I just gave the wrong way.
Because Soros doesn't give millions of dollars to candidates or PACs. He gives them to things called super PACs, the hybrid 401 or 403 C5s or whatever, C4s or whatever, like the different organizations there, but not to a candidate directly. You give money to another person and tell them to give money to a candidate because you know that you would be bypassing the contribution limit. You're never allowed to do that.
All I'm trying to say is that
All that you're trying to say is you broke the law and you keep using you as an example when for some fucking reason you're so goddamn brain rotted, you shouldn't be doing that. You broke the law. Someone pointed that out and they investigated it, found that you broke the law, and found you guilty of it.
a tip causes the FBI to assign $100,000 to investigate my case. And this is normal. When law enforcement suspects that there's a crime that's been committed, they haven't proven it, they think it might be.
But there's a crime to speak of there. The exceeding of the campaign contribution limits. What you're talking about, dropping ballots off at a drop box,
Can
is
you
not
think
a
of a
crime.
good reason for somebody, let alone 242 people, to go to 10 or more drop boxes?
How many cell phones datas did you go through?
Millions.
So of millions of cell phones, could 243 go by where 10 drop
Not
boxes
go by,
are?
go from one drop box
Go from
to
one
another
drop
to
box to the
10
other?
no
Yeah,
more.
sure.
Look,
For
we're not talking about
240. Do you understand the odds that you're talking about here of millions of cell phones where the post offices or post drop boxes near these locations? These are all post office drop boxes, right?
Look-
Could I conceive of 240 people out of millions of cell phones dropping off stuff at drop boxes during an election season? Sure, I guess. That's
Common sense!
a very low number of people that would have to be out of those millions of phones you pulled.
There is no reason for anyone to go to 2 drop boxes.
No reason at all. You've never in your life gone to 2 drop boxes before.
We're not talking about showing up to City Hall and turning in your ballot. We are talking about these so-called mail-in drop boxes. Look, even if I were taking the ballots of my family members, am I going to say I'll put one ballot in one box and then drive to the next box and a third box?
You have no evidence that that happened, though. The evidence that you tried to showcase in your film was one guy coming to the same drop box at 2 separate occasions in a different outfit at each time. Is it plausible that this man probably dropped one off early in the morning, went home, maybe got a little freaky with his wife, changed his clothes, maybe grabbed a shower, and then left the house again, and while he was leaving, someone asked him to drop off a ballot again, so he showed up a little bit later in a different outfit? Maybe he went to work. Maybe he was in the backyard and got dirty, so he changed his clothes before he left. There are a million reasons why he changed his clothes on his second approach vector to the fucking infamous drop box. See how he makes all these crazy claims about multiple things, but his evidence that he tries to showcase in his film shows not what he's claiming. These people do the biggest like bait and switch bullshit all the fucking time. And you fuckers fall for it.
And remember that we're setting a high burden.
Could they just be mailing stuff?
What?
Could they just be dropping off stuff to mail?
True.
You can send in your ballot by the mail.
No, it doesn't have to be a ballot. It could be anything, right?
The mail-in drop boxes are only for ballots. They're not for anything else. They're not intended for the post mail. You don't put your utility bill in there. These are drop boxes set up.
Aren't they going to be in the same location though? Because the geo-tracking is going to show like within a level of like what, 50 feet or a level of proximity. They're not going to be 100% accurate, or else we wouldn't need search parties once we like geolocate someone who's like called 911. Like sometimes they take you very close, but not to the exact location.
Up for ballots. And what I'm saying is that it makes sense. All right, maybe by accident you went to 2 boxes, okay? You went to one and put in your ballot. You went to a second and had a smoke. Once you set the bar at 10 drop boxes, you defy credulity. There's no reason to do that. And that's why in itself, it is suspicious behavior. Now, are you saying that in all the 242 cases, am I saying that all of them were equally guilty of the same type of fraud? I don't know. But I'm saying that
No, your answer would be no.
there's very good reason to investigate further. And if
We,
this
if
were
we want to
done,
say, let's
if-
say that I grant all that. Let's say that I say there's very good information to investigate these people for crimes despite having no evidence of crime being committed and no evidence of what these people were doing at the drop boxes. You don't think that there wasn't very good reason to investigate Donald Trump for committing crimes relating to the retention of classified material when he's showing classified material to people saying I could have declassified it, but I didn't?
I'm not saying that there's no good reason to investigate anything. I'm not saying that. I'm not
So
saying...
then the investigations of Trump were done for a good reason.
Well, it could have been done It could have. Generally, when there's an investigation, there is some plausible basis for it.
Sure.
But I think
Like
you,
the willful
you would be,
retention of
hold on,
classified
hold on.
material, yeah.
But I think you would be naive if you're saying, oh, you know what? Had this not been Trump,
The pretzely.
but let's say had it been Bill Clinton, they would have done exactly the same thing.
What
Can
about
you-
Hillary
can you with a
Clinton?
straight? Well, I'm saying Bill Clinton because he was the president.
What
I'm
about
simply
Hillary Clinton?
saying-
Because she was running for president. We talked about her emails for years.
Talking about her emails is in the public domain is one thing. It's a colossal level of naivete. But let me put it this way. The ordinary person thinks that our whole system, including our banking system, works completely differently than it does. So I asked my wife the other day, if you put $1,000 in the bank, what happens to it? She goes, well, it's in the bank. And I go, so if you want to get it anytime, you can just go to the bank and ask for it, and they'll give you your $1,000, right? And she goes, yeah, right. And I go, what if I told you that when you put the $1,000 in the bank,
Oh God. Are you going to tell us they invest the money? Because of course they. What the fuck? Of course they do.
the bank takes the $1,000, they pluck out 1/10 of it, roughly, about $100, and they lend $900 to another guy. Let's say Steve right here. But they don't actually give him the money either. They open up a checking account for $900 in his name. So now you have two guys who both think that they've got the same $900 in the bank, but it doesn't even end there. Let's say that Steve has a deposit in another bank. He goes to the other bank, let's call it Wells Fargo. He deposits his $900. What does that bank do? They take the $900, set aside $90, and loan $810 to another guy, or open up a checking account in his name. What I'm getting at is, whose $1,000 is it? And the answer is the bank, by a cartel arrangement allowed by the Federal
my
Reserve.
God.
This would be fraud in any other area.
So
Like,
it wouldn't
hold
be
on.
fraud. What you're explaining, it's called fractional reserve
It's
banking, and
yes,
it's what
and
every country on
fractional-
the planet does. But then when your wife says, can I get that $1,000, would you tell her no?
No, I would tell her yes, I would tell her, because even though the money is fictional, it has already been lent out. If you go to the bank, let's just say all of us tomorrow decide to go to the bank and collect our money, and the bank didn't have it. What would they do? Answer, phone call to the Federal Reserve, print the money. So the backstop of all of this is the unlimited ability of the federal government to prevent bank runs of the kind that occurred in the Depression.
Correct. That's why
by
some things
running,
are called FDIC insured. So like a savings account would be an FDIC insured product by the bank. Wouldn't it be better for that $1,000 deposited in the bank, instead of just rotting there collecting dust, to be mobilized in the economy so that people could actually do something with it, like have a
Yes.
mortgage for a house, or invest in a business, or do literally anything else besides sit there as termite food?
Okay, so I don't think we need to go into this because you don't even know what you're talking about.
What
The
did I just say
Federal
that was wrong?
Reserve-
What did
the
I just
Federal-
say? Explain to me the velocity of money. Explain to me why it's not good to have money sitting in a bank doing nothing than it is for it to be mobilized in an economy. Tell me.
Okay. No, we're not disagreeing about mobilizing the money. We're disagreeing about the mechanism of doing it and who is left holding the bag. So in the 19th century, we had no Fed. The United States became the largest economy in the world. In the 19th century, we had fractional banking. But if banks couldn't meet their obligations, they went bankrupt. And so there was free market competition among the banks. It was to prevent that free market competition that the Fed was set up. Essentially, what the Fed decided to do
What the year is 2025, and you want to emulate the banking system we had when there were cowboys and Indians, when in the 19th, 18th century.
are
How far
talking
back do you
about-
want to go? We live in a modern world that has modern demands for our monetary system. Why does no other country on the planet employ the obviously superior form of banking that you're talking about?
because it is in the interest of every state has recognized for thousands of years that controlling the money supply is the key to controlling the wealth of the country. That is what, in the era of gold, what the governments used to do is take the gold coin and dilute the coin. Put base metal into the coin. So the coin, which was supposed to be pure gold, is now only 50% gold or 30% gold. So this racket has been going on for a long time. I grant
So do you
you.
think Trump should get rid of FDIC insurance and fractional reserve banking?
FDI insurance is a complete illusion.
So we should get rid of it and go back to the gold standard?
Not the gold standard per se, but we should go back to a free banking system, which would include Bitcoin, which would include all kinds of currencies.
We're talking about fake money and you support Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is not fake money.
Okay.
You think that something is fake money because, first of all, you give this rhapsody to modern technology, and when finally a form of money is created privately that cannot be inflated.
God damn, dude, the fucking crypto bros still ruin everything.
That has a fixed supply, and that in fact has.
That cannot be inflated. Bitcoin has one of the wildest volatility indexes of any currency on the planet, besides maybe Zimbabwe.
Do you realize that inflating a currency and volatility have nothing to do with each other? Volatility has to do with the market's appraisal of a new product. There is extreme volatility around all the internet companies for about 20 years.
There's no volatility around Bitcoin? You don't think that
there's a lot of volatility around Bitcoin because the market is full of people who look at this thing, don't understand it, and go, what's this? I've never had private money. To me, a dollar bill needs to be said. It needs to state on the bill, backed up with the full faith of the U.S. government. Otherwise, it's not money. So this is an ancient way to think.
What an argument that
like
was. Holy fuck.
Confuses you because
my socks are
new.
knocked off. Oh, I'm not
So to
wearing
be clear, it
socks.
doesn't confuse me. It just doesn't. It makes it so a country loses complete and total control of their monetary
Exactly,
system.
and that's why you oppose it, because you are a statist and you want your government to
No,
control
I oppose
the
it because
money
I took
supply.
econ in high school and I realized that there's a value to a country being able to control their currency.
What is
Like,
that value?
Well, in times
What is
of
that
great
value?
economic depression, sometimes it's nice to be able to inflate your currency a little more because that's a preferential state of affairs than half the country going unemployed. Or like we did
True!
during the Great Depression. Or at other times, it might be nice to pull back on your currency if you want to deflate a market that might be running a little bit too hot, like the run-up to the 2008 housing
Okay,
crisis.
so I reject this whole.
and you stand in opposition to central banking across the entire planet.
No, this is a whole Keynesian understanding that is itself has all these embedded false assumptions. The false assumptions are that you've got this thing called, quote, the money supply. That the money supply is kind of like a something that can be regulated with a faucet. You turn it up, you turn it down. This was Keynes' justification in the 1930s for an unlimited welfare state. Keynes was very explicit about his motives. He's very explicit about what he was trying to do. Frankly, he was not even an economist. But nevertheless, he advanced this theory, which has been regurgitated to economic students for almost a century now. All I'm saying is that money is valid. No money has intrinsic value. The $20.
Regulations are a good thing. And a government, its one primary function is to make sure that it protects its citizens. So having the government interested in that is probably a good thing. Diluting gold, Bitcoin, etc. Did he think he could seem intelligent for once? God damn. Kia over here being savage. True.
$20 bill has no intrinsic value either. So if you say Bitcoin doesn't have intrinsic value, neither does a $20 bill. By the way, neither does gold if you don't count earrings and ornaments.
To be clear,
money,
the dollar has value because
The value of the money is the value that we give it. We've all come to agree that money is a good way to trade for things because we don't want to go back to bartering and trading for goods. Because some of us, our services are not something that we can sell. So we work for money. We work for a universal medallion that we pass around willingly. We opt into it and we give it the value because it supplies us with all the things that we need. We've agreed, by and large, that this system works better. And I don't understand how a capitalist is going to sit here and argue against that. That's crazy.
because the U.S. government accepts it as payment for taxes. Nobody has to accept Bitcoin as payment.
Exactly. So whoop-de-doo, I take my Bitcoin, I change it to US dollars, and I pay my taxes.
If somebody's willing to buy it from you, yes. But you can't pay your U.S. taxes or U.S. debt
Right.
obligations in Bitcoin.
So
Dinesh and Stephen, we do have about 15 minutes left, just so you guys know. And I thought maybe we should touch on Trump and political violence, if you feel like it.
Well, we actually haven't talked about the topic of our debate, which I took to be whether Trump on net is a good thing or a bad thing for America. And
Oh,
so
God.
I'd like to say a word about why I think a little bit about Trump, the man, and a little bit about what I think he's done for the country. And then maybe you can say the same, and we can kind of get to the heart of what we're talking about. So to me, Trump's first term was very positive for the most part, but kind of blasé. He was stopped in his tracks by 2 years of Russia collusion hoax, but he got a lot of things done. And the economy was in better shape.
What did he get done? The economy started to crumble before COVID happened, by the way. Like, that's, you can just go look it up. He was complaining at Jerome Powell even then. Jesus
Manifestly
fuck.
pre-COVID, in March of 2020, leading up to the election. Quite frankly, had it not been for COVID, I don't even think election fraud could have helped Joe Biden. But
Oh, really?
Trump was hit
Really?
by this, was
Really?
sideswiped by
You mean the man who was voted the most, he received the most votes in U.S. history? Joe Biden, the fucking powerhouse that blew Trump's ass so far open that we had to hear him bitch for 4 fucking years. Joe Biden fucked Donald Trump in the ass so fucking hard that even when Donald Trump won the White House again a year later, he's still talking about Biden. You know, they ran a story the other day about where Biden is right now, and lo and behold, it's vacation. Dog, the motherfucker has cancer. He's been out of the White House for a year. Why the fuck are we still talking about Biden? Did you guys get so fucked by this gigantic Biden dick that he's this infernal boogeyman that chases you around every corner? Holy fuck, is he gonna be Obama 2.0?
By
Holy
COVID.
shit.
But, and that's a fact. Jane Fonda basically said COVID is God's gift to the left. So if you can't see the truth of that, I don't know what to say to you. The years of Biden were essentially the years of taking the American bus and driving it straight to the cliff. In foreign policy,
Jesus.
with the Afghan disgrace,
The Afghan disgrace, you mean the one that Trump set up with his negotiations with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and he left out the entire government that we propped up there? I mean, that one that, you know, Trump kicked the can down the road, that one? Okay.
in domestic policy, inflation goes to the highest level that it was going. You have to go back to the 70s, to the OPEC era.
What happened to cause it inflation, you fucking moron? Was it a massive pandemic that shut down the world? Was it Trump's rampant fucking inability to like unify our country and lead as an effective leader? The fact that we had to shut down our economy for fucking years. The fact that millions of Americans refused to go back to work. Right after BLM had a tremendous negative impact on many smaller cities because they destroyed billions of dollars of damage. Maybe some of this had to do with the inflation. I don't know about you guys, but I remember he also Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and America managed to recover incredibly quickly. Many people believe because of Ukraine buying American weapons and us propping up AI to the degree that we did. All of these helped push us through the bubble. And then Biden did a lot of minor things, such as the CHIPS Act and trying to bring numerous jobs back to America. All of these things were things that Biden did. Biden passed bipartisan legislation. Biden is probably going to be one of the only presidents in the last 40 years to really handle immigration. He had an immigration bill that was ran by Senator Langford, okay? Run by a Republican. And there are fucking interviews with Langford being told by people like Ted Cruz and stuff to shoot down the bill. Biden did so fucking much. And no one cares.
To find inflation rates of 9%, Biden achieved that. And an open, porous border, which is actually inviting, not only inviting, helping caravans of people coming from thousands of miles away, no vetting, doesn't matter if you're a criminal. There were foreign governments that emptied the jails and boasted about it. And
then Biden tried to pass legislation to curtail that and hire more judges, so we didn't have like this weird catch and release thing that was going on. He wanted to bring more. We could even shut down the border if a certain amount of cases actually hit. Like, we could shut down the border for 24 hours to where no one got in. Biden did all of these things with Langford, bipartisan.
all these thugs, criminals, bad guys, terrorists are now in this country. I think
Zero
if we had
proof,
kept
by the
going
way.
in this way, it's hard to see how the country would survive a whole lot more of this. So Trump's great achievement was to come in and stop this dead in its tracks. The border is secure.
How about it was never the big issue? It was all a lie that you guys ran with, because the number of immigrants have changed every time. How about that you guys just stopped lying about it once he got into power? You guys give out so much fake news that it's impossible for this media diet to even coexist in reality. You are delusional and you are fucking insane.
You probably not only heard, but some of you may have bought into all the embellishment, all the rhetorical ballet. We need comprehensive immigration reform. There's no other way to secure the border. You heard all of this. You might have said it yourself. It's untrue. And Trump had just proved it to be untrue by just showing you can't get in. However, we have somewhere between 8, maybe 10 million illegals who are already here. What do you do with them? Trump is...
You know what's crazy? Those are the same numbers that Tucker Carlson said, I don't know, what was it, 7 years ago when he was bitching about DACA and all this other shit? Like, every year it's 10 million people get in. And then, like, when it comes down to the illegals that are here, we're still at 10 million. What? Do you guys not, like, go back and watch your old talking points? Do you guys not, like, what the fuck?
He's doing the most humane thing he could do. If it were me, I would ask all competencies order kills people of policy spends policy rating it works better. He lives a turns out at a potential Trump funded can be socialist. Basically, this is what here Reagan there was my case for Trump. Well, how the wheels case and look pathetic.
So what is Trump trying to do with tariffs?
What Trump is trying to do with tariffs is this.
You see that? There was this long speech that was like 10 minutes of him being uninterrupted, and Destiny just asks him a question. And now we're going to be in another 10-minute speech of this dipshit talking.
The United States sells stuff abroad, and other countries, India, Australia, many others, place giant tariffs on those products. Sometimes...
What is Trump trying to do with the tariffs?
Trump is...
Re-asked. A general rule from now on in any debate, for any of you guys out there that get lucky enough to step on a stage with a moron, always make them answer the fucking question. Do not ask them another question until they concede or they answer the fucking question, because they're going to pontificate about so much shit, but they won't answer the question. They live in this obscure world where they can dance around facts, logic, and reasons with beautiful moral oughts and appeals to civility and this and that, and they'll make vague appeals to common sense. But when you ask them a direct question, they will not answer it. Make them answer it. They need you more than you need them. They need to sane wash the shit they're saying. They need your platform. Make them answer the question.
Trump is trying to do two things. One is he's trying to use the tariffs as a form of strong arming or arm wrestling, basically saying, I will put tariffs on you, and I will only take them off if you take off yours.
Then why does he keep changing that with countries like China?
Okay, so be aware that this has actually not even been seriously attempted before.
Because it's illegal.
Governments were
It's illegal.
It's not illegal.
The president
It's illegal.
can't. Do you think the president of the United States is allowed to do unilateral econ policy?
The president of the United States has a lot of economic levers that he can use.
In times
Again, he did not answer the question.
The president of the United States has a lot of economic levers that he can use.
in times of national crises.
Exactly.
Our debt is
And-
not a
and-
national crisis. If it was, Trump would be even worse for it. But
Well,
so we have no trade deals.
I think that $38 trillion of debt. I think that a stagnating economy. I think that a
Then why did
working-
you say that the first Trump term was a good one? He added to the
The-
debt more than he needed to, right?
he added to the debt, that which would you'd have to put into the negative column. I mean, all presidents have added to the debt.
Except Bill Clinton.
Just look at the essentially one out of every, I think, $4 in the country today was generated starting in 2020.
Sure, and Trump is
under
continuing
COVID.
to add to it even more.
Yes,
right?
Trump
Trump
is a-
won't have a single budget surplus by the end of his presidential
Trump
term, right?
is, look, you should be happy with him for this. Trump is, in fact,
No, he won't have a budget surplus by
Trump
the end
is
of his
a big
four-year
spender
term, right?
when it
Yeah.
comes to spending money. He's more like a Democrat in that regard.
Well, no, because Republicans have been the big spenders, right? Isn't a Democrat the last one with a budget surplus? Clinton?
Yep.
Well,
Can we
no,
not agree on basic facts here?
Clinton was,
Right?
come on.
Wasn't Bush the Republican, the one that started all of the foreign wars?
The Clinton surplus was 100% the result of a peace dividend created by the collapse of the Soviet Union.
surplus is a
which occurred
surplus.
a surplus is a surplus, but
Okay.
this
I
is
thought
like,
Donald Trump, you said collapse of the Soviet Union. Doesn't Donald Trump have like 9 country wars that he's ended? So we should have tons of surplus then, right? Do you agree, you acknowledge that by the end of Trump's 4 years, we will not be at a budget surplus, right?
I agree. And
Okay,
I-
so then
and-
that's- so the
and-
debt
and-
talking
and
point
you're
is
missing the
worthless.
argument I made.
You just said he might solve the $38 trillion of debt, and now you're saying he's not going to take away from the budget deficit.
Well, you weren't listening to me. What I was saying was
No,
one way
that's the problem. He was. He was listening to you, dog. Oh my God.
to
But it
solve the
died.
debt is to
But it
start
died.
paying it off. That's a very painful way when you consider that not only the vast majority of our budget is currently in entitlements, but those entitlements are scheduled to increase dramatically. So this
Fucking boomers. Bro. This is killing me. This is insanity.
is a painful way to do it. You can see why our congressmen and senators in both parties don't want to do that.
Well,
And
but the
hold
person
on,
who hurt paying it off the most was Trump with the tax cuts, and they did it this year when they solidified
the
the tax
big,
cuts,
beautiful
didn't they?
bill.
The very best way to pay off the debt is
Again, remember, they have no morals. They have no principles. There is no through line through their ideology. You can be mad at some of the progressive overreach that happened with the woke shit and all. Okay, I got you. Some of it was a little much, you know what I mean? Some of it was uncool. The shit they did to Kyle Rittenhouse, not cool. The shit they did to the Kavanaugh kids, not cool. The shit that they did to Joe Rogan by trying to make him look worse when he was just recommending, like, doing what his doctor told him, not cool. We can all agree about that shit. The censorship over the Hunter Biden laptop that lasted only 24 fucking hours was not cool, okay? Let's admit that. I can own up to the worst parts of the left. But you know what's crazy? Those people had good intentions. When Rachel Maddow said something as ridiculous as getting the vaccine, COVID vaccine, you're never going to spread it, that was a mistake. She should own that. People should. And I bet you if you were to ask her point blank, she'll say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. That was a mistake. But you know what's crazy? Being mad about her making one fucking mistake like that from 4 fucking years ago, when these people lie about everything. They have no facts. They have no evidence. I made a comment earlier when I first started this complaining about the fact that Joe Rogan gets to sit here and ride high about the bullshit surrounding the COVID vaccinations. Because a handful of things that happened, he happened to be right about. He happened to be right about the censorship going on, about asking about the lab leak theory. Now, there's still plenty of evidence to say that it wasn't originated from a lab. Nothing has been solidified. In fact, they look more wrong than before. But he was right about the censorship. The intellectual dark web was right about one thing, but they weren't right about everything. The people that believe that the vaccine didn't help people are just wrong. The COVID vaccine was like 100 times more likely to be beneficial to your life than getting COVID, okay? The myocarditis and all this shit that Joe Rogan complained about, it's true. The vaccine can give you some of these. But COVID was 17 times more likely to give you myocarditis than the fucking vaccine. But no, none of these people question Joe Rogan on this shit. Joe Rogan gets to take a victory lap while he's wrong about 99% of everything on the topic. He just brings on people that agree with him on it. That's it. Joe Rogan is mostly wrong. Mostly the experts were right. Most of the things we did during COVID was correct, and they were following a pamphlet designed, and the structure of our World Health Organization had already set these in effect for major things. And now we can admit that we made some mistakes during COVID. Now we'll be better prepared for the next one. However, people like Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, RFK, and all these fucking troglodytes that have made the situation worse, we may not be better prepared for the next pandemic. More people will actually die. Thank God COVID wasn't as dangerous as people initially feared, but it did still kill millions of Americans, and many of them were Republican.
Is to enlarge the economic pie.
Which he's shrinking more than he should be. It should be growing faster, but the tariffs have hurt
and
it.
what I was
but, like,
saying,
why did they solidify the tax
I was saying that
cuts?
the combined effect, in my opinion, of energy unleashing, AI, and robotics, the United States has been growing at a rate of somewhere around 1 to 2% for now decades. It was growing at 3 to 4% in the middle of the last century. If we can create growth rates of 5, 6, 9%, which are entirely in the realm of possibility.
Not when you hurt your
given
trade
the-
relationship with every other country on the planet like we've
Facts.
done with the tariffs. You acknowledge, for instance, when Trump held up the tariff sign, that all those numbers were a lie, right? None of those tariffs were accurate for any other country, right?
Look,
Can you at least acknowledge
I
that
think
simple,
that
basic fact that all the numbers on that chart were a lie? They used a math formula.
What
to
is
get there
not
based
a
on our
lie?
trade
What is
deficit.
not a lie?
But was that a lie, though?
What is not
Wasn't
a lie?
that a lie?
What is not
Wasn't
a lie?
that a lie, though? When he held up the sign, didn't he lie to the American public, to you and me and everybody else in here and the entire world when he said, these are the tariffs that every other country has on us? That was a lie, right?
Well, it was a negotiating tactic.
God damn it, dude. Holy fuck.
No,
So it was
a
a lie to negotiate?
It's a negotiating tactic. Look,
But
if
it was
you-
a lie then. We can at least, it was a lie to negotiate. It was a lie, right?
Trump
Who was
is
he negotiating with? The Fox News ratings?
No.
His YouTube views? It was a lie.
Are you saying that if
I'm saying it was a lie.
Hold on.
I'm saying
if
those numbers were a lie.
I'm saying
which
if,
they were.
if I'm negotiating with you,
Yeah, and you lied to me. I wouldn't negotiate with
I'm
you. But
not
those
lying
numbers
to
were a
you.
lie, right?
if I'm negotiating with you and an NPR reporter comes to me and asks me something and I say this is going to be the result, I'm actually speaking to you. But if I were to tell the NPR, oh, guess what? Let me give you my actual negotiating position, okay? Because you can then put it on NPR and the Chinese will figure it out by tomorrow morning.
You know what's crazy? Okay, let's buy it. Let's just buy his argument, okay? Let's just walk through his argument. So he's saying that Donald Trump had to lie to the American people so he could have a better negotiating tactic with our former allies of the world. Okay. So the lie was for the American people, right? Because, like, these countries know what their tariffs are. So are you saying that he has to lie to us or to the other countries? Okay. Well, even if that's the case, why are we okay with our president lying to us? And why does us knowing how much the tariffs cost affect the negotiation that he's going to have on the other end? It's not like we're going to be in the room. We don't have an actual say in it. This is all closed room dealings. So how is lying to the American people give him an upper hand in the negotiating tactics with these countries? Because they're aware that he's lying. They know what their tariffs are. They're the ones putting them in place. So who the fuck is he lying to, and for what benefit? He's lying to the American people so he can justify his tariffs. Again, Occam's razor. What is more likely? It's probably more likely that he fucked up and he's going to lie to cover his ass. That's probably more likely the case, because why else would you lie? Okay.
This is
I think I would probably use the massive governmental apparatus I have to negotiate to do that, because that seems like a more
no,
appropriate
because the
and
massive
mature
governmental
adult way to
apparatus
do
that we
negotiations.
have is proven to be completely and utterly incompetent.
Gotcha. So then everything that comes from the Trump administration, I should interpret.
Remember, these are the ones that like the rule of law, right? So he's saying that all of our government agencies, FBI, our judges, our cops, our Department of Defense, they're incompetent. They're just incompetent. They can't do their job. We have to give all of this control to a king. Got you. Okay.
Interpret as being potentially fallacious. It could all be a lie because he's trying to negotiate with other people. Then I can't trust anything he
I'm
says.
saying negotiation is a moving ball. I'm saying that Trump is very capable of putting on a tariff.
Also, let's never forget that at the very beginning of this dog shit debate that he tried to put on, he tried to say it didn't really matter. A crime is a crime. So if Donald Trump lied, a lie is a lie. Doesn't matter what his intent for that lie was. That was his defense of these cases and Donald Trump earlier. It either is or it isn't. So it is a lie. The justification is not required. It's a lie by his own line of logic, dude.
And saying, I'm going to put on this tariff on January 7th, and then he doesn't do it. Is he lying? No, he's not lying.
No, that's
he's
not what we're talking about. When
threatening to do it.
Well, he did do it,
gets
number one.
something for
When he
it.
the big chart was a lie. Why can't we just admit that? This is what I'm talking about at the very beginning of this conversation, living in different realities. It was a lie.
I'm saying that these bombastic claims
We're lies.
in the course of negotiation, it doesn't even matter because the real
Okay, so now it is, he did lie, but it doesn't matter. Okay.
issue is what are you getting in the deal?
If I
Remember, this is the same party that wanted to take away or kick out the last president that had a budget surplus, which was Bill Clinton, because he lied about getting his dick sucked in the White House. The reason why we impeached Clinton wasn't because he got his dick sucked. It wasn't because he was being a bad president. It was because he lied to the American people. The reason why we went after Nixon and why he needed a pardon was because he lied to the American people. But here, it's not bad that Donald Trump lied to you guys. It's a negotiation tactic. Even though the people he's negotiating with know that he's not telling the truth. He's just lying to you, the dumb fuck that voted for him.
I don't know if you saw me walk up on stage, but if I put in my Tinder profile that I'm 6'2", and I show up at my date with really good posture, does that count as just being bombastic, or would that be a
All
lie?
right, let me give you an example for why.
Well, let's have an example. How about when the president held up a
If
board
you
with a
were
bunch
to
of tariff
ask Trump-
numbers, and they were all lies? Wouldn't that be a lie? Can we just say that was a lie?
I'm saying that presidents, in the course of foreign policy and trade negotiations, every president lies to us all the time.
Give me an example of a single other example where a president has lied like that to the American public.
Okay, I would say that every deal that the United States has
One
struck-
example.
Okay, I'll give you 10 examples.
Just one. I just need one.
Yeah, okay. So the United States, for example, lies about its dealings with terrorists. It lies about Reagan lied about.
I'm sorry, hold on. National security secrets with
We're not talking about
terrorists or
secrets.
covert
We're not
things
talking about
are not
secrets.
economic deals. We
We're
don't
not-
lie. The American president doesn't lie to the public about economic deals.
We're not talking about national security secret. I'm talking about national security policies.
I'm
not
talking about
secrets.
economic trade deals.
I'm saying economic for Trump. When you're dealing with foreign adversaries, the distinction between a trade deal and a hostage swap and a deal with Maduro to get out, these are all on a continuum.
Maybe that's the problem with Trump. Is
That's not
every
a
single
problem.
thing with him feels like a hostage negotiation.
Well, because it is. That's the way the
I agree
world
with
is.
you. It is. That's not
It
the way
is.
the world is, though. We
No,
haven't
it
felt
is the
that
way the world
until
is.
Trump was
Do you
president.
realize
He holds
that-
our allies hostage. He has our economy hostage. He's holding immigrants hostage, sometimes illegally detained or otherwise, and he lies to us
So
in order to sell
Maduro-
his deals to personally enrich himself and
Maduro
his
has a
family.
call with Trump. Maduro makes a call to Trump. Maduro says,
Okay, I'm done. This man lies for a living. You knocked it on the head, babe. There's no... I wish Republicans had a spine. I really do. I spent a majority of my life trying to talk about how we're all just people, and that at the end of the day, we're trying to do the best thing that we can for our country and for our citizens and our family. But when you see people do this, and you Republicans don't call it out, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. When people call out Destiny's behavior when he's being a little gremlin, yeah, Destiny can say horrendous shit. Destiny can do horrendous shit. He's got a long list of mistakes that he's made throughout his career. I'm not going to run defense for Destiny. But when he makes a good argument, he makes a good argument. And that's all that matters. You can call out the bad stuff. I have like 2 actors that I loved my entire life, from Russell Brand to Danny Masterson and James Franco. There's 3. All 3 of them have done very bad things. They hurt innocent people and they lied. That doesn't mean I can't enjoy an episode of That 70s Show. But I'm not going to sit here and say Hyde is a cool guy anymore. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say that I'd like the show. But like, Hyde is an asshole. Danny Masterson raped a woman. It's that simple. James Franco asked women to do sexual things for favors. That's as a quid pro quo. That's not cool. That is not good. Doesn't matter if I enjoyed Superbad and fucking Pineapple Express. Doesn't matter that I like them. Doesn't matter that one of my favorite movies when I was younger was Get Him to the Greek and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. These guys are still monsters, despite the things that I enjoyed about them. You can like something. That doesn't make it good. I like bad games all the time. One of my favorite games is Dynasty Warriors. It's a dog shit game. I still love it. That doesn't make it a good game just because I like it. You can be critical of the things you enjoy. You should be able to call out your side when someone is not operating in good faith. Nothing this man has done on this debate stage was good. None of it looks good for Republicans. You should be able to call that out. When Jordan Peterson goes on Jubilee and can't defend the position that he's there to defend, Christians should be like, what the fuck, Jordan? You're supposed to be one of us. You should call it out. When Donald Trump does something wrong, you should call it out. Because if you care about values and ethics and things that matter to you and your party and your side, when they cross a line, you should call it out. I'm so hard pressed to fucking fathom understanding MAGA anymore. I used to be the guy that said, hey man, these blue collar boys, these hard working individuals, they matter too. I don't give a fuck about them anymore, dude. You support terrible policies. Millions of people are suffering because of things that you have done, and you continue to run defense for it. This is not okay. We need to be held responsible for the world that we manufacture. It's that simple. When you see someone do bad, you should call it out. Regardless if they're on your side, doesn't matter if you might pay some political price for it. Right is right and wrong is wrong. At the end of the day, our team is for humanity. And then the political parties are supposed to filter out outward afterwards. Not anything else, man. If your kid is doing something wrong, you call it out because you want your kid to be a good person. You want them to grow. Our society is no different. Our actors and people that go on these stages, or these influencers or debaters, the people that uphold our ideals, we owe it to ourselves to make them honest. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I had a good time. I'm going to go spend the rest of my birthday drinking some more alcohol or something. Probably try and get handsy where I can, if she lets me. Nah, I'm joking. Guys, look, hey, it's a new year, guys. It's a new year. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. We owe it to ourselves to be the best version of us that we can be. Not because, we want to be good or moral. It's because we have an obligation to try and do better than we did the year before. That's it. Let's try to be better versions of ourselves. That's it. Try to be more honest. Try to be more forthright. Stop running. Stop hiding. And, tackle everything you can and party as hard as you can for as long as you can. Whatever that party might be. You know what I mean? I'm not saying go out and do drugs and get a hooker. I'm not saying that. I'm saying enjoy life to the fullest and try to leave behind a better world. That's it. That's it, guys. Have yourself a wonderful year. I hope everything you want this year is fucking given to you, man. I hope you get that raise. I hope that girl says yes. I hope you get married. I hope you have a kid. I hope you do all the stuff that you want to accomplish this year. Have yourself a wonderful new year. Best wishes. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace the fuck out. I'm going to do all the drugs and make love. Hell yeah, Pixie. Get it. Get it, girl. If you start an OnlyFans, sell bathwater. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. That's where the money is, dude. All right. Peace, motherfuckers. Love you.